Well, it warmed up today. Come on. Not enough. Not permanent. Not where you want. Your thermostat at home?
Well, when it gets not a certain time of the day, our thermostat goes down from 65 down to, from 68 to 5.
Yeah.
With the sun going down, the weather outside getting clearer.
Oh, yeah. Then you're freezing. I feel that. Ours goes down in the afternoon, which was great for nap time with the kids. Now it's just me, and I'm like, I need to fix that now. I start shivering. Oh, my ribs hurt.
Did you turn that on?
Huh?
You turned it on. It already
Yes.
says it's on.
Yes.
Came on my phone.
Oh, did I turn this on?
Yeah, it says it's on. The
Oh, I thought you were talking about this. Sorry.
The video.
Yeah. Hello, Mr. Kim.
Howdy.
What time?
Hi.
How you doing?
This is not mine. This is
Better.
something else. This is mine.
Okay.
And it's probably not going to kick in.
Oh,
How are you doing?
You try it. When you're trying
oh
to
I'm
set
alive.
it, Wi-Fi is
Better
not
days.
connected. Bluetooth is on.
I know somebody must have.
Cellular is on.
Shuffle
Roaming
them,
on,
buddy.
so I should be able to have it.
I like to think that's good somewhat.
I'll try this anyway and see if it,
They were all in one
We can
big
pretend.
pile when we
Yeah.
came in. They were all in one big pile.
Oh, I
when we
see.
came in, so.
No, I just
Talking
shoved them
about
out of the way.
this
Kevin.
No,
oh, those things, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, not coming.
This is so
And,
good.
and I've got stuff available for it, so it'll come on, so it's just not. Not gonna be that fun.
Well, I had every intention of coming last meeting, but
Oh, that's okay.
started running temperature, and I was like, well, I guess I'm not going.
Better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to turn my volume off.
We've given it out, we'll be able to do it.
And I'm going to turn the phone off because I don't have any battery.
Terry, there's one thing I wanted to bring up at that last work session that I thought of it several times and didn't get a chance to get it out. I don't know if Astor can do this, but I wanted whatever measures we have to take. I don't want one person to camp in the same site for more than 14 days.
Yeah, you brought that up, didn't you?
Okay, I
thought
can't
you
remember if
did.
I did or not.
Last meeting, I think you brought it up before that even.
Yeah.
Pretty sure we had.
Well, we had somebody last year
Oh, we did?
camping at one of the spots that everybody likes,
And they didn't get kicked out of
and
it?
they stayed there for almost 2 months.
Oh.
It's one of the sites that I like a lot, but others do too.
Don't need it?
Nah.
Decided you don't want it?
Okay.
And you, hi.
I'm here.
You want a key to the office?
I have one.
See,
To this
okay.
building?
Yes.
I have one.
Okay.
I'm told it works better than other people's.
I got some new-
They were talking about making a copy off mine because the other ones were struggling to open the door right or something.
Well, I made 8 copies,
Oh, wow.
Well, you
And-
said you needed one for Robin.
and she got one today.
Oh,
You can keep
okay.
it.
So you can keep it if you want, but
I don't think I really need it.
so anyway, I bring it back in. The key works in the bottom lock on all 8 of them, no problem.
Not top.
I go to the top, wouldn't go nowhere.
You know, I'm not sure if I use. No,
So
I
got
do.
so I got to looking at it, and this very first point right here was about 3 times higher than that is right now.
Oh, wow. So it
Compared
didn't
to,
cut right.
so for some reason it didn't cut right. So I took them all back and they found them down and they all worked just fine.
I knew they were well, that's good. I knew they were having issues with it for a while.
Yeah. Did I offer you a key, Tim, last week?
You did offer, I did not accept.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Justin will be about a half an hour late.
I see.
Yeah, I made it.
Yeah, feeling better, huh?
A little bit, yeah. Maybe up and down. thing, but we'll see how it goes.
That's something with kids. You know, that's the one thing I don't miss about having little kids.
Oh, kid, this is me.
Well, the little kids are constantly bringing illness.
Oh yeah, they brought home everything. We've had everything but strep. You know, knock on wood, because we don't want that bouncing around the house again.
Dylan takes his son to a daycare.
Yeah, you'd think my kids would have had it all.
Yeah.
But when Freya started first grade, because we homeschooled kindergarten, and I had closed the daycare by that point. So she must have just had that 1 year break of getting an exposure. And when she went in, she had 5 fevers that year. It was insane. I was like, every month, I'm like, well, you can't be sick anymore. You've had everything. And it was never anything major. They were all just respiratory. I don't think she even had COVID in that.
Molly
Window.
won't take medicine, so she just toughs it out.
I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, Dylan or his son get sick, and you know they get medicine and over it. And
Yeah.
Adam just hangs on to it for weeks.
I do try not to take a lot, but like, you know, I'm at the point where I'm starting to take vitamins, so I stopped getting sick. So I'm done with it. But yeah, we had from November all the way through December, like into Christmas. Every one of us got sick twice.
Passing it around, and then
It was
by the
different
time
stuff by then.
by the time the first one that had it, you know, was feeling great, and the last one in the house has it. First one comes up with something different.
It happened the year before too. We spent, and that was just one illness. I think that was COVID. We had one person sick every week, and I'm like, could we shrink that like window down? Like, why is it so spread out? I mean, we're not
Okay,
quarantining in the house.
we have enough for a quorum to get started if you guys want to.
Okay.
Okay, let's get it rolling.
Justin will be a few minutes, well, roughly half an hour late. Brett probably will show up any minute. And I haven't heard otherwise from him.
I did see him drive by recently, so.
Okay. I did expect, from what I had heard, that there would be other people in here tonight. I'm surprised that they're not here. You know, not even a representative from the lake who usually comes to all these meetings and
Well,
takes notes, which is okay. Because
he probably figured, you know.
Yeah.
This didn't concern him.
well, I want
and
to
the people
start
at the
out.
lake.
I want to start out by saying that this meeting is recorded up here. Okay, and I'm going to start recording all of our meetings that we
Work
have
sessions.
like
Work
this,
sessions.
work sessions. Yeah, I don't want. Sorry,
You're fine.
didn't mean to call a meeting, but work session. And then if there's people in the public that want to see what we talked about, because it's an open meeting anyway, they should have the ability to check it out on our website. So heads up on that it's going to be on recording. And for the one person that is here, I just want to remind everyone, this is a work session. We're not going to be setting policy, and we're not going to be having a Q&A session. However, we've got a lot to cover. So I think we do anyway. You guys might not, but we'll find out. So what I'm going to add to that is, if you would have to have a question, take notes or whatever, and ask them at the end of the work session. Once we get through all this, if time permits, we're going to try to hold it to 2 hours or less. So with that in mind, everybody has a copy of the handbook, right? Employee handbook. And hopefully you've gone over it in the last week or two, and you wrote notes somewhere, things you may want to change, or I guess changes are right word. There might be something you want to add. So with that in mind, I'm going to open the floor, and let's just go through it page by page. All right. As far as the table of contents goes, that will change according to whatever changes we have to make. So Article 1, personally, I didn't change anything on that first page on Article 1. But if you guys have something on the first page, the floor is open for discussion.
I didn't have anything.
I have nothing till page 5, so.
Okay, all right. Does anybody have anything on page, I guess this is actually page 3, Article 2.
I just had a question. Do they on 3.2 says the applicant shall also pass a physical examination and the other tests deemed necessary. Do we actually do that?
No, it says, and any other test when deemed necessary by the council.
Oh, okay. So,
So,
just
yeah, I saw
exclusive
that too, but I had to look at it.
when deemed necessary.
Mhm.
Okay. That's fine. I
I
just
had
was
to
curious
read
if
that
we're not
twice.
really doing it, then why is it in there? Okay.
Yeah, no, good. It's a good question,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, I think Jim Weir, when he signed on, he eventually had to take a written test. This says physical, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. A written test.
Yeah, because he has to work at the plant. He has to
I
be
think
able
you're
to
thinking of
pass.
the water certification.
Well, he took the certifications.
Yeah, but that's a kind of a test, but it's not a physical. That's the difference.
No, I just meant
I
like
see
this is
that,
to
yeah.
like
Sure.
work here. But he
What
did
what
that
could we possibly use? Maybe the job that Drew has. Maybe Mike. Do they have weightlifting?
Well, I was gonna say, if there's
possibilities
somebody that
on
has a, gosh, this almost sounds like a disability.
That's what I kind of was like. If it's for that, if you can choose when to use it, that seems like a little bit borderline not allowed to me.
Well, as long as someone that's disabled can pick up a gas
They have to be able to
meter,
perform the duties as,
yeah,
and if the duties say you gotta be able to dig a hole, well, I don't see any reason with saying, show me.
yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Well, I want to add a line to that qualifications in there somewhere. And what I'd like to see added is a sentence that says, and submit a current resume not older than 12 months. So it should be, maybe that's current. I should have brought my magnifying glass. Current, yeah, and submit a current resume not older than 12 months
Where
under qualifications. for
Right
employment.
Right after where it says the applicant shall complete a job application form.
Yes, and submit a current resume not older than 12 months. That's where I would like to see it go.
I don't have
I like that.
Like I said, we're not voting on anything. We're just talking about it. And if you guys are in agreement to what we're talking about, then we'll get it printed up. Then on the next meeting on the 13th of February, we can vote to either accept the new
Page 3,
employee
Brett.
workbook or deny it or make changes when we go to vote on it. Okay. Also on the same page, I want to point something out, not a change or anything, but I want to point something out. Brett, you and Tim have been on the council for 8 years, roughly,
He's been over 10 and I'm
Over 10.
gonna be 10. at the
and
end
you're
of this
10.
year.
Annie, you're 3, 4,
No. I'll be-
2.
She'll be 4 this year. 4, 5.
Because you reappointed you.
Well, I didn't do it.
Okay, and that's okay. I just want to, and I'm not scolding anybody. I just want to point this out. Article 2, paragraph 4, maintenance of plan. You don't need to read it out loud, but just read that first line to yourself, and then we'll move on.
Yeah. Actually, I did have another one. I'm sorry. It was just small. I didn't highlight a lot.
No, that's okay.
Right above that, it says each job classification shall be assigned to an appropriate range of pay plan,
Mhm.
which will be approved by the city. We don't actually have pay plans, do we?
We don't even have job descriptions that I can find.
So we really do need to make job description plus pay ranges because
Right.
it's like a shot in the dark. And every council I've watched, they're like, "What about $12? What about 14?" There's
Exactly.
really no, and it seems unfair
I agree with you
to
100%.
hire people in. Like, and we had that with, at least I had that with
Mhm.
Robin. With she got higher, we got somebody else is lower. Like it felt like an unfair situation.
I agree. We, as far as I can tell, we don't even have job descriptions for anybody.
And there's no reason that we couldn't just slap those on the back of the handbook. to
I
be
agree, and I
honest.
think it's,
So you're talking like a set thing if we were to hire them back.
It's not. It doesn't have to be set in stone either. You do like a pay range, so
Yes,
like from minimum to maximum,
Right,
And you
right.
pay within that window based on experience. and whatnot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's
but
how
we
you-
don't
That would take care
have-
of the, like when we hired the city clerk, we hired him like $3. He ended up getting paid $3 more an hour than Lisa did
Yeah,
after 12 years, which I didn't think was right.
Oh,
and it happens constantly. Like I feel like every position we just kind of guess, and it's not very good like market research. Obviously, it needs to be updated like this every year with current
yeah.
wages. But
Brett, you weren't here at the beginning of the meeting, but just a quick reminder, the meeting is being recorded, both on the video
I
and
saw the
tape.
light.
Okay. Didn't want you to think I was leaving you out. Okay, so that's nothing to write on here, but that is something we need to do. And there's no way we're gonna have time tonight to write job descriptions for
No.
people.
I
No
don't
way.
think- I don't think we have to work session that really.
I do too. And we're gonna have to include the employees, I think, on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it'd be handy if, like the example she brought up, public officer, if we knew what the last 5 years worth of public officer's pay was.
Mhm.
That'd give us an
Yeah,
obvious
Get a
range.
scope, but plus you like just look in general in Kansas, what do people get paid for that role? That way we know if we're on track or not too.
Sure. And in reality, I don't know if there's any communities roughly our size that we can refer to see if they have pay scales,
Right.
you know, in various jobs. And obviously not everybody has a water plant operator, not everybody has a gas operator.
Yeah.
So you kind of
For
got
sure, they
to,
don't have a gas operator.
you got to kind of expand
I'm
beyond
the only
that.
one.
Okay. So, shall we move on? Is it okay if we add that sentence that I suggested after qualifications for employment down
I
here?
agree with it.
That's fine.
Mhm.
And like I said, we'll get this reprinted. We'll get them passed out hopefully before the next meeting Monday night, and then we can vote whether to approve these changes or amend them.
But
Okay.
only if we have
On
stuff
Article 2-4, where the employee handbook shall be reviewed,
to harassment
Yeah.
policy.
I'm guessing nobody had any changes to bring forth.
On what?
Well,
On what?
there's no record of it ever being reviewed. That's the only reason why I pointed it out. If nothing else, it would have been in a city council meeting that it was reviewed. Okay. And even if you make a note in city council meeting that the handbook was reviewed on such and such a date and no changes were recommended, even if it's something as simple as that.
Never fails.
Okay, page 4. Anybody have anything on page 4?
Negative Ghost Rider.
No, it was more on the pay scale, but then it's proceeding. I was confused, and maybe I just don't understand it. But if payday, this is on 4-4. If payday is on a holiday, then employee will be paid on the next preceding workday. Doesn't that mean before? Am I confused by that?
Yeah, if it lands on a
Next
Saturday, you're paid Friday
Okay.
preceding.
She's hung up on the terminology.
I'm just
The next
confused by. I was like,
preceding.
what? Okay. Nope. That's it. I'm done.
Well, well, no, she makes sense
You're
because
easy.
the last line says if payday is a holiday, employees will be paid on the next preceding workday.
So it'd be like if you were paid on Fridays, they would get paid on Thursday instead.
I think the word next should be. stricken.
I do too.
Yeah, that's kind of.
Should
On the
be paid on the
preceding-
next workday. Strike the word preceding out of that. Is that what you're saying?
Well, do they get paid after the holiday
No,
or
they
before?
do they get paid before? I think they get paid before.
Depends on which word
Oh.
we strike.
Okay,
Let's
that's,
say the pay was
yes,
Friday,
yes.
but that's the holiday. Do they get paid Thursday or Monday?
I say Thursday, so take
Okay.
out,
The
we'll
word
get paid
next.
on the preceding holiday, so take the word next out.
Preceding work.
Yeah.
Good catching.
Anything else on page 4? Anybody have anything? Nothing. Okay, let's go to the next one. Page 5, section 4, paragraph 6, overtime work. By the way, everybody should have the same papers.
Mhm.
One of the first ones I got was dated 1995. I hadn't seen anything since other than this one. Just want to make sure everybody got the same one. I have one item on paragraph 6, section 4, under overtime work. Does anybody have anything there before I open my thoughts?
Not on overtime work.
Okay.
Wait, what page are we on?
We're on page 5.
Oh, I'm at
Which
head,
is
sorry.
is Article 4, paragraph 6, overtime work.
Oh, you were gone already.
I'd like to put down another subparagraph such as D that says sick leave used cannot be counted toward hours worked over 40 for overtime purposes. Unscheduled leave after 40 hours per week will be paid as regular pay. So in other words, overtime, you can't go into overtime by using sick leave.
I don't think they're using sick leave. I think they're comping time is what it's called. When you work overtime and then you take hours out of your normal schedule to make up for the overtime. Is that what you're talking about? When
No, I'm
oh.
talking about if a person had 44 hours on Thursday and they come into work Friday, and they work 40 hours, then they're and they work 4 hours on Friday, they've got 48, and then take 4 hours sick leave in the afternoon, they would have 52. Those extra 4 hours cannot be used towards overtime. So they wouldn't get overtime on their sick leave.
Okay. I mean, it becomes comp time then, basically.
Well, we don't have comp time if you,
Right, I did read it, yes.
I mean,
I did.
I didn't see the word comp time anywhere.
Typically,
in
that's
this.
what it's called.
Well, no,
I know
there
it's not in here.
but there is a difference. If you guys want comp time, and if the employees want comp time, I don't have a problem with that. But if we do, we're going to have to put it in the employee handbook. But as it reads right now, there is no comp time. They're
That's
paid.
something
They're paid
I'd
for.
really like to hear from them about because
If
I don't
they-
know what they prefer. And I do think that they work overtime and then make it up in the week
Well,
now.
Mike kind of told me a little bit about that, and when we get to that section, I'll bring it up, and it happens to refer to Saturday and Sunday work.
Okay.
Okay, so when we get there, Annie, if you can think about it, anybody else remind me what Mike and I had to say about comp time with Saturday and Sundays, okay?
So you want to add another letter?
I'd like to add that to the overtime work, just so people know that they can't use sick leave and get paid overtime for that.
Does any place allow that?
Not that I know of.
I've never heard of it
Where I work,
anywhere.
you have to actually physically be there working for 40 hours before you get overtime. If you worked, our workday starts at midnight between Friday and Saturday, like the city does. If you worked Saturday, Sunday, but you took Thursday and Friday off, you don't get any overtime.
Well, you wouldn't hit, you wouldn't hit
If you
40 hours.
worked-
I mean, how many
right.
hours would you work on Saturday and Sunday?
Well, let's say 8 hours.
Okay.
Let's say you got your 40 hours in
On
by Wednesday,
Mhm.
and then you took the next 2 days off.
Okay,
You get 0 overtime.
yeah, because
You
you
don't
only
get
got
time and
40
a half.
hours.
You'll get the 56 hours pay, but the last 16 hours won't be time and a half. It'll be straight pay. And even if it's a holiday, if Monday is a holiday, you work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, let's say you work a 10-hour day, those last 2 hours are not overtime.
Okay, so
Because
Personally-
you haven't physically worked 40 hours yet.
not contradicting what you're saying. I'm just saying personally, I don't see if a person works Saturday and Sunday, and then they work Monday through Wednesday, and they've got 40 hours, and they work Thursday and Friday, they would get overtime Thursday and Friday
If they worked them.
if they work them. But if they just take the day off like the regular, then they would not get it because they're not over 40.
Right.
I understand that.
But I'm saying that they took
Yeah.
it off as vacation.
Well, I was going to say there's a difference here. If let's say today that employee puts in for vacation for May, let's go to May just for the heck of it. May 18th and 19th. That's a Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
So they've got scheduled vacation for those 2 days.
Mhm.
The week comes up prior to that, and they're required to work Saturday and Sunday. And then they work Monday through Wednesday. They've got 40 hours, right?
Mhm.
But they've had scheduled vacation for Thursday and Friday for several months already ahead of time. So that scheduled vacation time counts towards their pay for that week. Up to them if they want to get I would think it would be up to them if they want to cancel their leave and get paid for 40 hours, or if they use it and get the annual leave. And if they used it, since it was scheduled in advance, it's overtime. Does anybody understand what I'm saying
Yeah.
there?
But the vacation time that they took on Thursday and Friday is straight pay. It's not time and a half pay.
Right, but they'd still get the 40-hour work week plus the overtime on the weekend prior.
Not where I work.
So this is
Right, but that's where we need to make a decision, and I
Well, we'll
think
get-
they need to pitch in on that too.
That's where I say that the
we'll get to that here later
overtime
on.
is after 40 worked hours.
Right,
And that's
but
the,
that's not how everybody does it, is what I'm saying.
well, I know everybody doesn't do the same.
No, I know.
Okay.
In
So
this case, that's not what we're doing.
I was just
But it
saying
makes
that
sense
if it's
to not
scheduled,
pay them.
if it's scheduled, like I said, if it's scheduled in advance, that was the time they had planned to be off. So what that means is that if their normal work week was Monday through Friday, don't think about us. Just think of their normal work week as Monday through Friday. Now they've put in for vacation time for Thursday and Friday, and they put in for it in February, and it's approved. That work week comes up on the schedule. They've got 2 days off, Thursday and Friday on vacation or annual leave, whatever you want to call it. You guys call it vacation leave here, I think. But now they've got to work Saturday and Sunday. So in a sense, that's out of schedule pay for them because their schedule is Monday through Friday. I'm just saying, for me, it would be an authorized overtime because they had applied for it in
Absolutely.
advance.
I can
And
get
paid for
behind that.
I basically, if you take it away, if you're not getting them overtime on their emergency hours, because they don't normally work Saturday, Sunday, you're penalizing them for doing what they were supposed to do both times
I can agree
because
with
they
that.
worked the emergency and they had planned leave correctly.
The following Thursday and
Right.
Friday, yes, and it's
So
a
they should be
schedule.
penalized for it. They
They're-
should be
Yeah, I agree. They
appropriately
should.
paid.
That's what I agree.
Yeah, and
That's what I'm thinking.
And they work 3.5 hours Saturday.
No,
and
they worked
Sunday.
8 hours Saturday and they worked out. We're just throwing a Saturday and Sunday. Don't think of us. Think of just having to work Saturday and
No, this
Sunday.
says if
I was
they,
meaning our guys. They work 3.5 hours, right?
this doesn't have a limit on the emergency situation.
No, it don't. It's just talking
On
about
water
it
plant,
can't.
on water plant, it's
That'd be
3.5
kind of
hours.
ridiculous. to
No,
do
I know.
that.
I'm saying the
Let's
water
see.
plant says they're only paid 3.5 hours, even if they work more than that on the weekend.
I do think that we should work
But do
on,
they
on
work
that
3.5
scenario
hours?
where
Up to-
they have
they can do it
previously
up to
requested
3.5.
their time off. So
What I
I
was
would
thinking
definitely
is
be in
there's
favor
some
of that.
that's
Because where I work,
okay.
I have the luxury of if I take off,
But I think
there's
they only
30
take
other
the
people
hour.
to do my
I
job.
think this is saying they get max to 3.5.
Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Sorry.
Let's clarify this a little bit. What I'm saying is if it's unscheduled, they won't get paid overtime for it,
Fair enough.
for taking the time off.
For like a sick day. Is that what you're saying?
No, just
No.
go back to they can't go into overtime by taking sick leave. So if they've got 42 hours in, take 8 hours sick leave on Friday, they don't get paid 8 hours of sick leave on Friday because that would all be overtime. That'd make it a 50-hour week. You see what I'm saying? They'd get the 2 hours of overtime for the 42.
Well, that's what I
but-
said, sick, if they took a sick day.
If they took a sick day on Friday,
Yeah, no, I got that
Yeah,
part. I'm
yeah.
saying the leave is different.
yeah. Now, if they took sick leave on Monday or Tuesday, and they had 42 hours on Thursday, and then they worked Friday, then they've got 50 hours.
Or if they work, let's say 8 hours on Saturday, on Monday, they decided, you know what, I want to take Friday off. So then they took Friday off as vacation. I don't think that should be overtime pay on Friday.
I don't know.
Because they've
I-
only worked 40.
But
I know.
they'd be off Sunday and Monday, right?
That's next week.
No, Saturday. The work week starts at 12:01 on
Right.
Saturday.
So
and
Saturday
ends
they
on-
worked an
and-
8-hour
and
day.
ends on Friday. They
So
work
they worked an
Saturday.
8-hour day Saturday.
They're off
And
They
then
Sunday.
Monday,
decided
they-
to take Monday off.
They're off Sunday.
Sunday,
And
Friday.
then Monday, they said, you know what? I've already worked one day. I'm going to take Friday off.
Okay.
So they don't get time and a half on Friday. They get straight time. On Friday.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I'm-
But if they previously, weeks ago, scheduled that Friday off,
Yes. Yeah.
and then surprise, you got to work Saturday,
Yeah.
then I agree. They deserve the time and a half.
And I follow that as
It's gonna
well.
be difficult to write.
Well, I don't know if it'd be that difficult because
It's confusing.
when somebody takes time off, they have to give us notice that they're going to be gone anyway. I mean, that's already in the handbook somewhere in here on that. Most people that I have ever worked with that fall into this category, they cancel whatever leave that they would have had on Friday if they put them in overtime. That way they saved it. They just took the day off because they don't get paid overtime. Why burn the vacation day?
Where I work, we're on almost perpetual overtime. But if there's a holiday coming, everybody knows they're not going to work overtime that week because the company just doesn't even want to get into that battle. You already have a day off. That means you're not going to be here working for 40 hours, and we're not going to argue with you over whether or not your overtime is time and a
Yeah.
half.
Well,
Because they will not pay time and a half for overtime.
the
Until
union,
you
are
fu-
you union where you work?
Yeah.
I'm surprised they do that because it's union really, but that's okay. That's okay. We can decide what we want to do for our people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll try to work on a way to write that. And then we can see if we all agree on it.
And then we can review it on the 13th.
And then can
We'll
we
need to get that information into Stephanie or whoever's going to type this up. We need to get the information into the office, either Stephanie or Lisa, write it up.
and then can I clarify this?
Sure.
on D, it says public works employees performing water plant duties will be allowed 3.5 hours.
We're not down there yet,
Oh, I didn't know you were up higher.
but I thought we were still doing that overtime,
Oh,
figuring that day
I
out.
thought we run hours of work. I'm all messed up.
Okay. All right. So let's go down to the next one, pay records. Anybody have anything on paragraph 7?
No.
Okay, paragraph 8 talks about benefits. I want to make a change here. It's going to involve Article 5 as well, okay? So I'm going to skip into Article 5 after I tell you what the change I'd like to see under benefits. I want to move Article 5. We've got paragraph 7. Let me look at that and see if that's correct. No, it's the wrong paragraph. Article 5. See, Article 5, city vehicles, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I think that should go under benefits. That's what my note says. Article 5, paragraph 7, city vehicle used by utility employees. That's a benefit. I think that needs to go under benefits.
I think when it says benefits, it's just talking health insurance and life insurance, right?
Yeah, but isn't there other things?
I'm not-
Isn't that a benefit to use the truck to drive home and come back to work?
I mean,
I mean, that's
the other
what
part is just paying mileage. I mean,
do what?
otherwise we just pay mileage. It's not necessarily a benefit in my eyes. I guess I'm thinking benefits is in health insurance
Yeah.
specifically, and I don't know why. That's how I think it's referred.
I was just thinking when I read that should be a benefit, and if you want to leave it there, that's fine. I don't have a problem.
I'm lost. What section are you in?
Okay, we're right now we're talking about Article 4, paragraph 8, benefits.
Okay.
Okay, now I want to go to Article 5 right here. Article 5, flip the page.
Okay.
Paragraph 7, where it starts out, city vehicle used by utility employees. That is the heading of that paragraph. You see
Okay,
it
I
right here?
understand. Yes, I got you.
Okay, I think that needs to go under benefits. But on
Doesn't
the other
matter to me
hand,
where it's at.
huh?
Doesn't matter to
If
me
it don't
where
matter, we can leave it where it is and we don't have to mess with it. I don't have a
Well,
problem. I don't have a problem
It is a
with that.
benefit. I would agree with that. I sure
I
wish
thought
I
it
had
was
a
a
vehicle.
taxable benefit.
A what?
I thought,
Well, it depends on who you talk to, I suppose. I think it's a taxable benefit too, but I think Todd said it wasn't. What do you think?
I'm not sure. Taxable how? Like for
Well,
us or for them?
For them? Because
Do
they're
they
not,
get?
Doesn't it break down as to
How
how,
would you?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I don't know how you would even put that on your taxes.
well, they're supposed to claim it because they're not paying for gas and vehicle usage to go back and forth to work.
right.
But how would you even like for
1099.
like your
Oh, yeah.
speak up if you want? I don't care.
No, we're not supposed to talk.
Well,
It's fine. If you know the answer of how they claim this on their
Yeah.
I'm
taxes,
just
I would
assuming
like
the
that.
city would do a 1099 as a benefit that they get.
Do they do that?
Something
yeah,
like
oh,
that.
yeah. I can tell you how
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
curious. I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I do mileage and stuff for my business and wear on my car and things like that. So,
right.
I
And you
just
can
was
write it
curious.
off, yeah.
Well, I write it off,
Yeah, sure,
obviously, but I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
How, do they write it off or do they
Welcome
claim
to
it
the
as
jungle.
income?
They have to claim it as a
Monkeys
an
are all about,
income benefit. And they have to figure out what mileage is and whatever the going rate is,
They get for free.
whatever the going
No, yeah, I
rate
got
is,
the federal. Yeah, mileage.
which
Okay.
is, I don't know what that is, but,
Okay.
so technically they're supposed to, but Todd says they don't have to. We bring Justin up to speed. Two things right quick. We are recording all of our work sessions from now on, so comb your hair next time you come in, will you?
Let's see what I can do.
Just teasing you.
Do have a haircut
Just
tomorrow.
just
so-
kidding. Just kidding. Just
Yeah,
kidding.
that's fine.
Didn't Todd say at a meeting one night that the employees that drive vehicles to and from work, it's a non-taxable benefit? Didn't he say that one night? That they don't
Yes.
have to, I thought he did.
Yeah.
That they didn't have to pay taxes
Because
on
of how they're on call and because it's a job requirement for them to
the
have
job
that.
requirement.
Yep.
I think that was what he did say, but I still think it's taxable income that they're supposed to report. We're not supposed to do anything on their W-2s. But we might be responsible for putting out a 1099, but you know, until we get pushed on it, I don't see any reason to, unless we had that responsibility. You know,
I wouldn't think so. I don't think it's a taxable benefit because of the nature of what it
Yeah.
is. If we just gave them a vehicle and just said, here, this is yours to drive to and from work because we care about you and, you know, whatever the reason is, at that point, I think you'd have a case for taxable income. But where they're expected to, you know,
Yeah.
1 o'clock in the morning, pick up the phone and go run and, you know, deal with a gas
Sure.
complaint. Yeah, something like that.
So you want to just leave it where it's at? We're looking at do you have a copy of the employee handbook?
I do not with me.
Do you,
I think I have one on here, but
do you
it
Did
doesn't
you-
want
did
to
you-
pick up right
Did you
now.
happen to look it over and make any notes
No,
for
I didn't.
possible changes or anything? Okay. Okay.
do you want a paper copy?
Do you have an extra one? Who has does anybody have an extra one? Because I don't.
So I'll run a copy, I guess.
Get this here.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And we'll start voting.
Justin, you missed out on something I said in the very beginning of the meeting, and that was I made reference to
Somebody's phone doesn't work.
I made reference to Article 2, Section 4, and it says maintenance of plan, and it says that the employee handbook shall be reviewed annually so as to provide for changes in class duties necessitated by organizational adjustment, improvement methods, and new or revised service programs. So this book was printed in 2015. Yes, 2015. And so technically for the last 7 years prior to tonight, this should have been reviewed once a year. Just a reminder that we didn't change it, but we just need to look at it once a year.
Yeah. I know a
Okay,
couple changes were made, so I don't know if that would count as a review, but
it would if you guys, and it's like I mentioned earlier with Tim when he asked a question, if it's something that would occur either at a work session or at a city council meeting, where you can easily say that we reviewed the employee handbook and have decided not to make any changes, and that would meet the requirement. Okay. So anyway, of course, we're going to do that next Monday anyway at this point because we're going over it. So we're okay for a year. All right. So we're going to leave the benefits where it's at then, right?
yeah, I can't do it. 'Cause I don't always go through
The
Article
vehicle.
5, paragraph 7, we're going to leave right where it's at, right?
I think it's
Okay,
good.
then I'm going to scratch my note. All right, now we're going to go to attendance and leave and hours of work in Article 5, Section 1.
Never noticed somebody that I know.
I have a question on number F. Does the city clerk maintain that ledger? I'm not saying she doesn't. I just didn't know.
Which one?
F. Number
Okay.
F.
I thought she did. Isn't that who you get your paperwork from when you were looking it up? I was pretty sure Stephanie does do that.
But I have a note on that F as well.
Do you?
I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, that's what he made copies of for us a year ago. Wait.
Yeah.
That's where I got the
Never seen
information.
Okay. Well, then she has to know what to pay them. I mean, overtime and all that.
Yeah.
She's
So
doing there.
there's-
And when we sign the
Yes.
paychecks, there's a stub, the stub's attached to it, and it shows how many hours they worked. It shows how many hours of sick leave or vacation they used, and it shows what their balances are on their pay stub. But looking at F that Tim's talking about, if you look up on the same page under pay records, again, this is going to be paragraph 7, section 4. I think we're duplicating that.
You can say that again.
So I don't understand why that would be put under hours of work or attendance and leaves. So I think that's something that
Funny.
can be,
Scratch it out.
one of them can be, I think under Article 5, paragraph 1, subparagraph F can be eliminated because it's repeating itself up from the top.
Well, it does deal uniquely with the attendance and leaves where the 4-7 does not. So
Agreed. That's what I was thinking is we would leave this one down here
yeah,
and strike that sentence out of this one up here, maybe.
Justin, you want to clarify that? What's the difference between the two?
well, you kind of have the statement made on 4-7, but on F it adds the all time earned or used.
Oh, it's,
So
it's speaking to leave time instead of pay
Yeah.
records.
where that Article 5 deals with attendance and leaves.
And pay-
But yeah, I mean, you're right. The rest of it's repetitive. But
I mean, they could be put together if you wanted,
yeah,
but it's about attendance and leave. That's why it's there.
yeah.
Something that they don't have to change if you guys think that's okay to leave them both in place there.
I mean, it's redundant, but
Yeah, I mean, I like a concise document, but I really, personally, I don't see a problem with the that repeating just because it is adding something new. But I could go whatever way. It's not that big of a deal to me.
yeah.
Anybody else? You want to leave it?
I like leaving it because if 6 months down the road, I want to know, hey, do we keep any pay records? I would grab this and I'd look for pay records and I'd find it right there. But if Justin wanted to go, hey, I wonder who keeps track of how much vacation time so-and-so is taken off. He'd probably go do attendance and leaves and he'd find the same information right there.
It's just redundant.
You can say
It's-
that.
yeah.
I'm gonna have to put the partition.
I think it's
up
the
where
lawyer speaking stuff.
You said you're talking.
Well, I think let it go for now.
Okay, all right, I will scratch that.
I know
So
that,
mine
but
was on
also
D,
all of those items.
Since yours are skipping past me.
Okay. Now, the only reason I skipped past is because I thought it was redundant with something previously. Okay.
So that on D, it says public works employees performing water plant duties will be allowed 3.5 hours of overtime for each day worked on the weekend. That makes sense to me, but if they work an hour, do they still get 3.5, or do they just get the hour they worked?
Well, I have a question beside that, and my question was why?
Why just 3.5 max?
Well, no, because in the old one, it said they got 3 hours.
I guess they bumped it up because they.
Well, I mean, I wasn't here in 95 and I wasn't here when this was revised, but it makes me question, first of all, why did it go to 3.5? Maybe you guys know, because you guys, we
That's
all have
what
been here.
it was.
We'd have been in high
And I'm
school.
not supposed to talk, but that's what it
And-
was.
Oh, I know.
And the other thing is, was it
More than-
originally 2 hours and they got time and a half, which gave them 3 hours of overtime pay on Saturday? Because what is time and a half for 2 hours? How much time would that be?
What?
It'd be 3 hours. If you work 1 hour overtime, you get paid an hour.
Oh, I see.
You get for an hour and a half. So if you work 2 hours, you get paid for 3. So is that how it was originally?
So you get like,
Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you what Mike
I
and
would
I.
say you would have to work those hours to get it.
I definitely would too.
what'd you say about Mike?
Mike, when I asked Mike that question earlier today, he basically said it allows for time that we work over 8 hours if we got 10, 15, or 20 minutes over a time or two during the week, instead of getting paid overtime during the week for that time that they worked. It's made up when they do the overtime on Saturday or Sunday. That's what his answer was.
It's like a catch-all for extra time, just
Pretty-
so they don't have to keep doing it.
Pretty much. And my comment back to him was, we don't, because he even used the word comp, kind of like comp time. And I said, well, we don't have comp time. We're supposed to pay you by the hour. So if you're an hourly employee and you work 8 hours and 15 minutes, you should get 8 hours and 15 minutes pay for that day.
So is this
That was
saying
my
that
thought.
if they get called out on a Saturday and they work for an hour, they get paid for the 3.5 hours still? Is that what it's saying?
No, that's not what this is saying. It
Okay.
says performing water plant duties.
Yeah.
So a call out, and that's something else. I thought about this, but for some reason I lost track of it. I should have wrote myself a note as soon as I saw it. If somebody gets a call out, how much time do they get paid? Actual time, or is there a minimum time?
Well, on the one below it, it says in case of emergency situation, the employees should contact their supervisor, but it doesn't say how much they can work
Right.
or get
right.
paid for it, but they should get paid for every hour they work in
There's-
an emergency,
oh,
of course.
Well, yeah,
But we should write that down.
but if it's after hours, say
Yeah.
it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you get a call and you got to go somewhere and it takes you an hour to do it, you get paid for an hour. You get paid for the call out, which would be
We don't
roughly-
pay on call time, right? They don't get paid on call time.
No.
So why not get paid to travel out there?
Oh,
on an
I agree.
emergency?
I agree. So if you
No,
get a
that's
call,
what I'm saying is.
yeah, if you get a call at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
and you go deal with something at 2 a.m. and you're back at home at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
What's the call out pay?
I mean, you should get paid for the whole thing, in my opinion, because they don't get any other benefit to the emergency. I mean, I'm not going to go work a job where I'm getting called at 2 a.m. on a Saturday. That would make me not apply. So I do think they should see that benefit when they do get called out, and it's not that frequent.
Okay, my thought is on a call out like that,
Yeah,
they get paid either actual time or 2 hours.
like 2 hours maximum.
No,
Oh,
actual
minimum.
time or 2 hours.
Okay.
max. So if they got called out and they work 3 hours, they get paid for 3 hours.
Okay.
If they call out and work 45 minutes, they get paid 2 hours.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So the greater of actual time or 2 hours.
For the pain of being woken
Yes.
up at 2 in the
Yeah.
morning.
And that's their comp for being on call at getting called at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
An hour and a half's worth of pay.
Our linemen have that at work. They had a minimum call out. So just like that.
And should there be a minimum amount of time for the call out in order to get 2 hours pay? So if you got a call say you got off work at 4 o'clock today and you got a call out at 5:30 and all you did was get on your computer and you took care of it in 15 minutes to still get 2 hours pay. Just throwing that thought out there.
Yeah. It's kind of a call in. I don't know. They
How often does that
call
happen?
out like actually physically leaving your family and going and doing something like, it's, hey, Mike, go check an email or something. It's after hours, but to me, that's not a call out.
Okay.
But if you're asking them, hey, can you jump in your vehicle and go
Come
across
turn
the
my
country
water
and
off
look
because
at-"
they got water spewing all over my.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a call out.
That's a call out.
Yeah.
Gas break call out.
But checking up on the water plant is not.
Well, that one's considered part of the public works, which, I mean, they do this. They do have to do this because our water plant needs it. So,
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying
Yeah,
that
the
that's not
difference.
classified as
Okay.
a call out. Because if they run out there and it takes them 45 minutes, that's not a 2-hour gig.
They still have to do a lot of manual stuff out there, like because we don't have it automated. I don't know. I haven't asked questions about that.
I haven't
lately.
talked to Mike, or
Who's
not
our
Mike,
water
but,
person?
I haven't talked to Jim for a while.
No,
about
no,
it.
around the council.
Do we have one?
So,
Your gas, right?
I think it's Michelle.
One of those two.
Nobody is technically.
Let me text him.
anything.
well, that's true.
According to Dolly, nothing is anything, right? She took that away from you guys. Is that right?
Right, and you
never-
haven't appointed
and never
anybody.
reinstated it. Okay. All right. So we are looking at D. The question was D.
Mhm.
So it'd been nice. We can ask Mike. I mean, I told you what he told me was he thought it was comp time, but we don't have comp time. So we have to decide. We have to look at it. Do we leave it at 3.5 hours? Do we change it to actual time worked or 2 hours because
I
it's
say-
a call out?
I say we put it up to. I don't even think that's necessary because what if there's something going wrong and it takes him 5 hours?
It's
That
actual,
doesn't mean we can cut the line.
no, it's actual time or call out pay.
But I don't know why it says 3.5 in there, and I don't like the
The way it's worded is weird.
I don't
Yeah,
like I don't
I
like
agree.
the catch-all idea because in my mind, if they're working 8 hours and 20 minutes, and by God, that 20 minutes is overtime pay. It's not comp time. It's not. Well, it'll work its way out in the wash with the 3.5 hours on the weekend. I don't like that. I think they should be rewarded for. But that I've worked at a place for 25 years where every 6 minutes is on the clock. And if I work 6 minutes over, it's 6 minutes overtime pay.
In your job.
Yep.
And this thing here, didn't we read earlier where it says overtime starts after 40 hours worked?
Well, it doesn't say that in there yet, but
I thought we went over that, did we not?
it'll be straight up there on the top of that page.
That's where it would fall.
Page 5.
Well, let's stay on.
Well, we might find that in here. Okay, here it is. Look at the same article, Article 5, Section 1, subparagraph C. Work in addition to 40 hours per week shall be considered overtime. I knew I read that somewhere. So if you work 8 hours and 20 minutes, you don't get overtime for that 20 minutes.
This says in addition to 40 hours per week. It doesn't say 40 hours worked.
Work in addition to 40 hours per week. So yeah, it does. In my opinion, but
It could be made more clear, but yeah.
I think
I think that's what they're trying to say.
Mhm.
Basically, you work 8 hours and 20 minutes and you're 8 hours every day. In the end, you got 40
I
hours.
saw
and
the
20
question.
minutes.
So when they're working on Saturday and Sunday, are they working those full 3.5 hours? Have they been working those full 3.5 hours, or do they just work an hour and a half and get 3.5 hours pay?
well, I want to elaborate on that just a little bit. Starting the 21st of January, they were required to clock in, right? Everybody's aware of that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So today I looked at the clock rings for the first 2 weeks from January 21st through Friday, this past Friday. And whoever worked at the plant on the 21st and 22nd, which is a Saturday and Sunday, and whoever worked on the following 4th and 5th of February did not clock in.
Is there a time clock at the lake?
No. So I don't think there is. But,
Seems like there should be.
well, in a
It
sense, I
makes
don't think there
sense.
should be. Well, to me, it makes sense that their work starts here.
Well,
And they get paid to drive.
I
out
have
to the
questions
lake.
about that as well, about lunch break, and they got to drive it here to.
Well, I
clock
got a
out.
solution for that too.
Do you?
Yeah, I'll pass it by you here in just a minute.
Okay,
That would
But-
so
make
but
sense.
let me-
to clarify the 3.5 hours, are we still on that?
Yeah, I'm telling you what what I said to Mike. I said, well, nobody clocked in, and he said, well, why should we? We get 3.5 hours automatically just for coming in on Saturday and Sunday to do that. And I said, well, it's not to check to see if you work 3.5 hours that day. It's to make sure somebody came in. If something had happened and you were on vacation or you weren't around, anything like that, and I checked the card, I wouldn't have a clue who worked because it's not on the time card.
So the answer is, I just want to know when people ask me what I can tell them, so they can work an hour and they just get paid 3.5 hours.
No. I said, if you work an hour, you get paid 3.5, or for one. He said 1, but we will never do it in 1 hour.
Who said this?
Jen.
Oh, you just sent him a message?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to know
When
what's
was it?
happening.
All right, but the
So
thing,
they don't get paid for.
if they work an hour on Saturday at the water plant, according to this, they should get 3.5 hours pay overtime.
Is that what it's saying? 'Cause
It
that's
says
not what
public
it
works
sounds like.
employees performing water plant duties will be allowed 3.5 hours of overtime for each day worked on the weekend.
I mean, the way it's phrased, that's how I would take it, and I'd get paid for it. Because that's what it sounds to me.
And they're getting
but
paid, and they are getting 3.5 hours.
if it says up to 3.5 hours, then that's a different story. It's confusing the way it's written. It's not written.
But this doesn't say up to.
Well, that's why I brought it up. I'm
No,
confused.
no. Don't be defensive. Just,
No, I know.
if we need to clarify it, that's the whole idea
Yeah.
of discussing things out. So-
Why is there even a number there? The 3.5. Why is that
Like,
even?
so you want it, like, they work, they get paid for that time.
If they go in and it takes them an hour, it takes them an hour. If they go in and it takes them 5 hours, it takes them 5 hours. Depending on what they got to do. Do they have to change a pump out? I don't want somebody going, shit, we only got half an hour left. We got to hurry up and slap this pump in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He's
want
saying
them to do
even-
what needs to be done.
Even if something doesn't go wrong, it's about a 3-hour job anyway. But I think he goes repeatedly is
That's my
the
next
other
question.
problem.
So,
Is he has to go and check like at 2:00 and then 5:00 and then in the middle of the night, and that's what happens. And I know he's done that before, at least in the past. I think he's still doing that kind of a thing.
so you think he's going out there at midnight and checking stuff?
Occasionally, yeah,
I've seen a semi
absolutely.
truck roll by at midnight before. It's
Well, yeah, but
fairly common.
It happens. Yeah. They,
Rolling up Lake Hill.
Dolly will tell you they used to sleep in it sometimes.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Why didn't Mike tell you that today then?
I don't know. I don't know, but
Doesn't always say everything, I guess.
Hey, you're not
Why would
gonna
he-
know about being
I mean-
quiet,
No,
are you?
no.
Settle it with a clock.
You ready?
Let me just say this. My thought is, I personally have not gone with any of the employees to see what they do on a daily basis. And I think it's unfair to go out and make a 1-day check, because each day is going to be different. There's different things that come up overnight that they've got to deal with the next day. So it won't be the same day in and day out. The majority of the time, it probably will. But I looked up water plant duties today online and to try to get an idea. And some of the requirements from the state require you to test the water, blah, 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 this and blah, 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 that, different times throughout the year, and have to have the water taken places different times throughout the year to get it inspected. As you guys know, we send it in somewhere in Topeka twice a month. Are you guys all aware of that?
Yeah.
That we have stuff going in twice a month. So what other requirements are out there that require somebody to be out there every day of the week, including holidays, that we have to test every single day? We do have to make some kind of test. We got to make sure that the is right. The other nitrates and other chemicals that we put out there are suitable for consumption. We have to check for leaks. So how long does all that take? I don't know. Has anybody ever been out there to observe what goes on? And does anybody have an idea? Has anybody asked? Jim says it takes him about an hour, maybe longer. Is that what you just said?
No, that's on the weekend.
That's what I'm talking about. Just on the
I
weekends.
don't know what he's doing on the weekend. I don't know what his job entails. I would talk to Mike about it if I wanted to know, I guess. That would be
Well,
my,
I would think any one of them three should be able to tell us. I would think. I don't know.
I mean, I
So-
don't know what Drew's.
And I don't have a problem asking them, and they should let me know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I also don't have a problem with showing up on Saturday, but the problem is I don't know what time to go out there,
Well, and I think it's,
or Sunday,
yeah, it's an as needed situation. I do think our water plant is getting up there. So
It's really gonna get up there when we get this grant, get the new one built.
I hope so.
Amen.
But
Get everything automated.
until that time, we've got to deal with the old facility the way it is, and the older it gets, the more time we're gonna be spending on it, doing things.
Yeah.
So do you think they should or should not clock in on Saturday and Sunday? I guess that's another question to ask at this point, since we're talking about.
I mean, you're asking them to come into this building and clock in and then go out to the lake
Yeah,
and
'cause I
then
think
do
they-
their
I
work
think
and
this
then
is-
come in here.
I
And
think this is where their day starts. That's what I
not,
think.
not on the weekend.
Well, how are you gonna get them to clock in?
Well, how do you know who's doing it?
Well, I don't
I mean,
I don't
do
mind
you guys
that.
have
A
a
tracking
schedule?
system. Yeah, they know
Otherwise-
who's working.
Yeah, so let me just throw this out there.
They know. Mike knows.
I think they get 3.5 hours pay even if they work less than 3.5 hours. I think they get 3.5 hours of overtime. Every check I've signed, every single check I've signed this past year, whoever worked Saturday and Sunday got 3.5 hours each day overtime. So whether they work 1 hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, if they work 4 hours, I would expect them to put 4 hours down and get paid for 4 hours. I would expect that.
Well, that's not what this
Just like
says.
somebody said, I don't think they should work 5 hours and get paid for 3.5. That doesn't sound with me.
Do you think that's probably why you
What's
always? Do you think that's probably why you always see a 3.5 hour? Is that they do work more than 3.5 hours
Oh,
often?
no, I think
So
I
they
think the
roll it
number
onto
would be
that?
higher. I think they'd have, if they work more than 3.5 hours on a Saturday and Sunday, I think that number would be higher for getting paid for being out there Saturday and
No,
Sunday.
I guess this makes it sound like it's a cap, and they're not allowed to get paid more than 3.5
But
hours.
if they're clocking in and out, there's no question.
Well,
I'm going to agree.
Well,
with
I don't
Andy.
disagree with that. I'm saying what our system says right now is that they only get a max of 3.5 hours pay.
But are they consistently using that 3.5?
I'm gonna agree with Andy that I don't think that somebody working at the water plant should have to come
So-
in
he
here to
says-
clock in and out. I think we should make sure that the clock at the water plant works. That's how I feel. Then we will know who's doing it. We'll know how much time they're spending out there.
So whoever gets off work on Friday takes their time card with them home that night so they can be out there Saturday and Sunday,
Well, that time clock,
because it doesn't interface with ours. It's a punch. So here's
Or
what,
they can
here's,
have a
here's,
second.
here's my line of thinking.
You know, it's not
I-
hard to do the
Without,
apps.
without, yeah,
Yeah.
without talking to Mike, Jim, or Drew about their duties on Saturday and Sunday, I personally think they don't have 3.5 hours of work out there on any given day. Now, occasionally they might have 3.5 or more. So what I'm saying is, if they get 3.5 hours and they only work, let's just throw this out there, they only work 2 hours on Saturday, they get 3.5 hours pay on Saturday, right? So there's an hour and a half there. I can't fathom somebody not taking 2 or 3 minutes to come over here and clock in or clock out both twice a day. Clock in the morning. I don't care if they start at 8 o'clock, they clock in, they're done by 10, they clock out.
So it's.
I mean,
if
they
you want
might not even
the
have,
info,
huh?
he says it's because it usually takes about 3.5 hours or more. So they
Okay.
basically just rounded it to that. Like they probably came in, and I'm just guessing, and said it takes more than 3 hours. So they bumped up another half hour or whatever. But he says, Julie, you could just say it to me, I guess, if you really want to.
Well, then,
Then don't say it while I'm still talking. It's
Yeah.
kind of.
I was whispering to her.
okay. All right. So how about,
And he says that's for the day, at least 2 trips out. So he's not just going one time.
so he's coming back, he's going out.
It's a repeat thing, yeah. To check it. When it's not acting right is how I understand it.
Okay. Well, like I said, when I looked at it on the internet today, it was like the water has to be ran for an hour, consistently for an hour. So it's tested either before. I don't think it's tested during, but it runs for an hour and is tested. So I can see that hour having to be out there. There was nothing that said requirements they have to be done at 6 a.m., noon, 3 in the afternoon, midnight. There was nothing like that I saw anywhere.
Well, I
In
think
that.
the midnight trips are when there's an issue. not
And
just
what,
for-
they have an alarm system or something that might tell them there's a problem? Okay, and that's good. So the wording on that is misleading. So I think it should be,
It's running.
The toilet's running, they're trying to stop.
yeah, I left Mike a note for that. Take care of that tomorrow.
Yeah, it's still
So I think the wording needs to be changed and we need to decide how we want to change it. The wording should be minimum pay or actual time work, whichever is higher. So if they're working 4 hours, they need to get paid for 4 hours. If they're working 5, they need to get paid for 5.
So same as the emergency. Okay.
What's the emergency pay?
The one underneath it, you were saying at a minimum call out pay for 2 hours, basically. Never mind.
Okay, that must be somewhere else. No, I was suggesting 2 hours pay minimum for a call out.
Yeah.
2
Never-
hour, 2
Never
hours.
mind. Never mind. Just keep going. I got it. You don't need to. This wheel runs a different pace than others, so don't worry about it.
Okay, all right.
Call it ADHD if you want. I don't care.
Okay. So somebody want to suggest how to rewrite that?
Hours worked.
I mean, that's really what we're trying to boil it down to is they get paid for the hours they work.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's, I mean, I think we're overthinking this tremendously.
Change allowed to pay for or paid for 3.5 hours. And then the rest of it, and then comma or actual hour or actual time work, whichever is greater.
Whichever one is greater. So you're saying that if they only put it an hour on the weekend, they still get 3.5 hours pay?
Well, that's how I just interpreted what we've been talking about.
Yeah,
There's
but
no
I
way
don't-
they're only putting in an hour if they have to go out there twice a day.
Then you're probably looking at 2 hours if that's the case.
At least. And that's my question. I know, I don't know what they do out there. I don't know how long it takes.
I don't know.
That's the
you,
first I've heard
you
it
have
takes
to,
2 trips.
I mean, put yourself in their shoes. You have to clear out your weekend and kind of, be kind
Well-
of glued to the area to be
You're right.
babysit the plant.
In theory, that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
But in actuality, they know that they're working weekend every 3 weeks.
Yeah. And they can trade, and that's,
Sure,
but
sure.
yeah.
Yes, if you got
Would they
something
have
going
stayed
on.
here
you can
anyway?
trade.
Yeah, possibly.
So Public Works employees performing water plant duties will be paid overtime for actual time worked.
Or 3.5 hours, whichever is greater, is the way, that's,
Yeah.
So we're going to take allowed out and change that to be paid, right? So water plant duties employees perform will be paid.
Minimum of 3.5 hours or actual time worked, if greater. Is that what you said? Jeff?
whichever is greater.
Whichever
Yeah, I
is
think
greater.
so.
Or actual time, 3.5 hours of overtime or actual time, whichever is greater for each day worked on a weekend. Right?
10-4.
You want to say actual hours worked overtime? Just to know, just so somebody doesn't say actual time as now it's straight time. So if the 3.5 hours of overtime or
Oh,
actual time straight
We've
time.
already got overtime on here.
Okay.
Will be allowed, will be paid 3.5 hours of overtime or actual time worked,
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
or we can put the word overtime prior somewhere.
Yeah. No, that works fine. Must have missed a word or two earlier.
Put 3.5 hours or
Overtime.
no, you'd say 3.5 hours or more time worked, whatever.
Or actual time
Oh,
worked,
overtime. It goes together, not separate.
whichever, where it goes or actual time
Grammatically.
worked, comma, whichever is greater, comma, for each day worked on the weekend. Let me read that back.
No. I beg of you not to.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we got to back up to A, where it says work week is from Saturday to midnight Friday. Do we need to insert 12:01 a.m. Saturday?
I think so.
Okay, you think so?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Work week is from 12:01 a.m. Saturday to midnight Friday for pay purposes. I think that needs to be in there for pay purposes. Annie,
Sure.
you agree with that? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one says the normal week, and I've got a concern with this one. The normal work week shall be 40 hours consisting of minimum 8-hour work day unless prior approval is obtained. Okay, I want to stop at that point, and the very next sentence after that, I'd like to say the normal work day is 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the reason I want that in there, because the way it's reading, if I decide I'm going to go do something at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, I could come into work at 1 o'clock in the morning and put my 8 hours in and I'll be done, because that's what it says in number A.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's going to go to work at 1 o'clock in the morning and put 8 hours in. I don't think that would ever happen. But that'd be the day that we hire somebody that just got off a night shift and they're still used to working nights and all that sort of thing, and they're out cutting grass at 2 o'clock in the morning.
I'm okay with that change, but I think the sentence should end with unless otherwise agreed upon or whatever. Because of the deal we just made with Stephanie.
Oh yeah, there will be. It says unless prior approval is obtained. So with that in mind, if we tonight decide and vote on it next Monday that the normal work day is 8 a.m. to 4:30, we've already discussed that they are allowed flex time. However, we've said an hour early to an hour late, but we have nothing yet in the employee handbook that says anything about flex time. So that can go in here as well at some point. But if let's just say one of the employees wants to work 7 o'clock every day. Okay, then I don't have a problem with assigning 7 o'clock to that employee that gets off at 3:30 in the afternoon. I don't have a problem with that. However, if we did that, we have to decide whether that employee could then take flex time to 6 a.m. or if the earliest they can start is 7. Or if somebody wants to come in at 9 because they got to babysit until the bus shows up at 8 o'clock or 8:45 and they can't get here, and they want to start their day at 8:30 or start their day at 9, I don't have a problem with assigning them a start time of whatever can accommodate them.
So, I mean, Tim's right. We should just say the regular work day is from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with a 30-minute lunch, I'm assuming, right?
Right.
Unpaid lunch. Unless agreed upon with your supervisor, however you want to say it. I mean,
You mean for changing your hours?
yes.
Yeah.
Because that needs to be together, not separate by the.
Okay.
Because the previous sentence just says they have a 40-hour work week with an 8-hour day.
Right.
Doesn't
So
say anything about.
no, it doesn't. That's why I want to start time in there. Like I said, I doubt very seriously somebody's going to come to work at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 a.m., anything like that. But the possibility exists. And the way it reads, who's to stop them from doing it? And it's not that I have a problem with them doing it. We, really, we need to know.
Just communicate.
Yeah. Okay. And in this attendance and leaves Article 5, is that where should we put flex time as available an hour up to an hour early to an hour late?
I would think so, because I think that would fall under the leaves part. Because if people think you're here till 4:30, but you normally get off at 3:30 because of flex time, I'd say you left early, so that'd fall under that. That's my opinion.
There'll be other changes that will benefit them along these lines if they need to leave early, for example, earlier than 3 o'clock. If they flexed to 7 and took a no lunch, they'd get off after 8 hours at 3. But if they need to be somewhere at 2 o'clock, we can make different arrangements to get them out of here so they can get to that location at 2 or whatever the case may be.
Who mandates a 30-minute lunch after 4 hours work? Is that the union or is that Department of Labor?
I couldn't find it for Kansas. I think Department of Labor doesn't even say that you have to pay them for.
Kind of non-existent, aren't they?
No, not that they get paid, just that
Like
they get a break after 4 hours work.
I
Thought that
I
was
was thinking-
mandated, but
It used to
I
be
thought it was too, and I tried finding it, couldn't
I
find it.
don't know where
the
At
federal
least
government.
I think it was Gale Island,
Something
because
that says that.
because I don't want to give
3.5?
them the opportunity to
I
work
remember
for lunch
arguing it.
if that's not legit.
Well,
I think it's
the
3.5
requirement
for
that I
minimum
remember-
3.5 work, and then you
What's
For a
that?
15.
What?
3.5 hours worked, and then you can go to lunch.
Okay,
But you
my,
can't work more than 5 without being
I-
allowed to go to lunch.
see, and when I was working for the federal government,
I don't think it's like that.
it was an employee cannot be required to take a lunch prior to 4 hours worked, and you cannot require them to work longer than 6 hours.
When I was at the KBI, we didn't get lunch. We got 2 15-minute breaks throughout an 8-hour window. And that's how, because they were considered a 24-hour rotation, and they were allowed to do it that way. But we were paid for the break, so it was just straight 8 hours.
Mhm.
But we never had like a real lunch break.
And how long
So
ago was that?
that's been 10 years, I guess, but they haven't changed it, I can assure
I'm
you.
sure they
That's
haven't either,
that's
yeah.
cop hours in general. They don't have
Well,
to
that
have a
negates
lunch.
what my concerns, so then we're okay.
I do think it's required though, at least 30 minutes per an 8-hour shift.
To allow it, but I
To
thought-
allow
Yeah,
it.
but
I was going the other way.
yeah,
Where if we allow them to work an 8 hour, I didn't know if that was going to get us in hot water.
I didn't see anything,
If that's okay, then I'm good with it. We can move on.
but I mean, obviously.
I don't think we can require them to work more than 6 hours without taking a lunch break. That would be the max, in my
I don't think
opinion.
we would ever pass that anyway.
They could choose to skip lunch.
They can choose to,
That-
yes.
That's what
yes.
it boiled down to. I
Yes.
was wondering if they had. If
So-
we could give them that choice.
I don't know if I have this listed later, but since we're talking about the lunch, Annie had a question earlier tonight about what if they're they're nowhere near the office and they need to clock out for lunch. There's another avenue that we could take on that, and that is they don't have to clock out the lunch or clock in. if they're scheduled 8 to 4:30 and they've got a start time at 8 and they clock out at 4:30, okay,
Mhm.
then we can always set it up. Hear me out fully, that we automatically reduce their hours by 30 minutes for a lunch for that day. The exception would be when they come in the morning, when they clock in, they come in the morning, and I might have a clipboard set up, and it has a date on it, and they can sign it that they're taking a no lunch that day, and there's our record that they took a no lunch. Okay, if they don't sign that and they go out and their clock rings show 8 hours worked, and they're not signed, if I take a half an hour off, they got 7.5 hours pay, and I'm liable to ask them about the other half hour. So they technically wouldn't have to sign in if you want to go that route, so they don't have to clock in and clock out. But they can sign them in the morning when they clock in. If they're going to take a no lunch that day, they can just sign the clipboard, I'm taking a no lunch. And then they can work 8 to 4 and no questions asked. But if they work 8 to 4:30 and they don't have the signature that they signed out, then we get them, that they took a no lunch, then they get half an hour off their pay to account for a lunch that they took that day. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what I do at the library, even if because we handwrite ours, but I just say minus 30 for lunch or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And say then if anybody, no matter where they are, whether they're at the lake or they're in Auburn or maybe they're in, I don't want to say this. I was going to say maybe they're in Topeka, but that wouldn't be right. But what's one of the farthest points north we go? We go to Maple Hill. Do we go that far? We go to Westmoreland, anything like that? I-70 anywhere?
Maybe go to Wamego or something every once in a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So obviously it doesn't make sense for them to drive back to the office and clock out. That's where I'm going with that.
Mhm.
So if you want me to throw that in there, that's an option. I would prefer they clock out. Now, Stephanie, for example, is here in the office. It's not that big a deal for her to hit the clock and go out.
I say we kind of do it both ways. If they're working in town, then there's nothing wrong with them coming by here to clock out. If they're south of town, out of town, whatever, not going to be passing through here on their way to lunch, then they don't need to clock out. I mean, I think we can be lenient on that. But if they're, pushing snow in town and taking lunch, then they're right here by the building. No matter what part of town they're in, they're right here by the building. And even whoever's running the water plant driving by is going right by here. But I still feel there should be a clock at the water plant to make it more convenient for the employee. The weather's shitty. When it's raining, I don't want them to have to pull in here to come in and clock out for lunch. Punch out at the not the big house, the water plant, and then go to lunch. That's how I feel.
Yeah, there's another way to do it. I would personally ask the employees whether they would be open to this, but so everybody carries around one of these. I mean, it's, everybody's got one. They've got apps. So what the pool uses is an app called When I Work. So it's basically a time clock in your pocket. So when the pool kids show up, they come in, they punch a button. It, has geolocation or whatever. So it basically stamps you saying, I clocked in at 6:51 at this location on the planet. So, whether that's here, whether that's the water plant, whether that's, they get called out at night and they're clocking in from home, as soon as they hang up the phone that there's a gas leak, okay, well, I'm going to clock in if that's the procedure. But, that would alleviate some of that. I mean,
Well, that makes sense to me, but would we have to provide the phone?
yeah, I don't know about that. And I also don't know how big brotherish it is. I mean, the kids seem to be fine with that work up there, but I mean, that's,
It's their generation.
16 exactly. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, but it's, it's like, well, this thing's, spying on me or whatever,
And a lot of the companies my husband works for are going the other way, and they don't track your own hours. You're a grown up.
Yeah.
And I get that. I mean, they're work from home and they're more work based, which I do feel like these guys, they're work based. Like, if they're doing their job, then they're doing what they're supposed to do. But in their case, like his last job, they just eliminated annual leave, sick leave, You could take a day off. There was no repercussions. And they found in studies that people actually took less time off work when they knew that they could take it whenever they needed it.
They always thought their performance was tied to.
I mean, in their
It
case,
was
like,
hard.
I mean, he has a different kind of job, and I know you can't just do that across the board with different things. But they were less concerned with what time they started that day and more about. And some companies are not doing that. Like I know Carrie Warren, we've talked about, they've got kind of the Big Brother technology that checks your computer screen to see if your mouse is moving and random creepy stuff like that. But I don't think that makes people work better. I think it makes them a little
Some
paranoid.
of them use the camera.
And you can,
You gotta
oh
be-
yeah, and that's creepier.
Yeah.
But you can cheat every system, to be honest, except for maybe that camera. That's creepier than hell, though.
Yeah. Put your picture.
Put a mask on.
Yeah.
But even they even have apps to move your mouse across the screen to cheat the whole thing.
Oscillating fan, you zip tie your mouse cord to the bottom of it.
Nice.
If you're doing old school, like
Tricks of the trade, huh?
I've heard.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
this, I,
his current job, I mean, has leave time, but his boss is less concerned with tracking when he's working. He just knows that he's doing the job, I guess. I don't know. And it's like a kicker to that because I know that not everybody's necessarily happy with what they've done or not done. We could actually look into a ticket system like your IT departments do, where anytime there is an issue, you can log it into a ticket and basically it covers their butts and it covers our butts and it covers the city's butts. So you could make it so where only we could put it in, Stephanie could put it in, or anybody in the city could put in a ticket, technically. But you would need a very good, like, you know, is this a problem? This is an emergency. This is not a big deal. You know, like we need to clarify that stuff. But what it does is it logs that this happened on this day so that we don't have people coming in and saying, my gas line's been leaking for 12 months, which I just don't think is necessarily factual. I'm gonna put that on camera, I guess, but
You're throwing out an example.
I'm throwing out a random example. That way we can say like, well, it was on this day. This is why we couldn't do the job, which would help them out because sometimes they get stuck on, we need more information. We can't get this thing, blah, blah, blah. Like, and so it looks to us like they're not doing the job, but really there's other issues at play. So they could put that note in and then we can see it that says, oh, well, they're going to do it, but this is what's holding us up. And it's like a running work list for Mike, or it could be for each one of them. He could assign the jobs. I don't even
So
care.
would this be like on our website? So if a customer,
That's what I would
was
need to
wanting to-
research a little more, but I know for sure, speaking of my husband's last job, Civic Plus actually offered a website compatible program. I don't know if it's on our budget. I don't have a clue what it costs,
yeah,
but there are
it's
options.
not a bad idea because
Yeah.
I've had people tell me that they've had a gas leak for a year and they don't really notice it unless it's raining and their water's puddling up in their yard
That's a little concerning.
and it bubbles.
Yeah.
But when there's no water there and it's dried up, nobody can see or hear the gas. They couldn't see it, but they can't smell it.
Wow.
They can't hear it going hissing or whatever the case may be. But you know, that would be an idea.
Yeah.
If,
That and the dead worms.
and
We'd have to obviously make
detect
it
you know.
clear, like if you have a real gas leak, it's a 911, not a ticket system thing.
Yeah, you
So,
can make it up. after
Yeah,
the
I mean
fact, too.
everything would be
Yeah, it's something worth looking into.
So-
That's for sure. Would you like me to task you with that job here?
yeah. I can try.
Okay, on attendance and leaves, the only thing I want to add to this is that employees must maintain a proper work schedule. So if we're 8 to 4:30, then we need to be 8 to 4:30, not 5 in the morning to 2 and just bouncing around constantly. Now, you know, on a regular schedule, they're not going to be bouncing around. They'll be maintained pretty much. That eliminates a lot of headache and paperwork. as
Or
well
somebody
from-
will know about it.
That would fall under the the supervisor or mayor or 2 city council members. So if they are bouncing around, somebody will have at least been alerted.
And that's probably considered an emergency situation, is that you're saying
Yeah.
under E?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mike and I talked today about communication, and we both agree that we need to communicate with each other better. So when people are doing something out of schedule, for example, we need to be aware of it. And that way, there's definitely not any question. You know, I really hate getting a phone call from somebody from the public because I have the same answer for them. I'll look into it, which is all I can do. I'll look into it because I don't know. If I knew ahead of time that you were going to be gone next week, then somebody says, what the heck's Tim doing over here? Doing this, doing this, doing that. He's on vacation. Is that okay with you? You know, for example. Okay. All right. So we're done with that, with this page.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want me to make up a no lunch sheet to put out in the mornings? Did we decide what we're going to do on that?
So
Where they
don't
can
have
come
to
in and sign
clock
a no lunch sheet for the day? What?
You mean so they don't have to come in and out and clock in?
Let's
For
block
lunch.
it.
And
For lunch and out lunch?
yeah, I think the situation needs to be such, like we talked about, if they're going to be nearby, they can clock in, but there might not be a stipulation on that. My work schedule has me too far from the office this day to come back in and sign up, you know, something like that. But you know what? There's another thought too on that. What if somebody needs to get off early to go to a doctor appointment? You know, that half an hour could mean the difference between getting the doctor appointment on time or not. And they wouldn't have to burn any vacation or sick leave to go out there and do that. You know, they could save it.
Jim says we don't know most of the time if we're skipping lunch.
Who said that?
Jim.
Okay.
So like they would know ahead of time.
Well, if he had something going on that day, for example, he would know when he came in that morning. That's what I would
Like you
think.
said, if you're going to go to the
Is-
doctor, then he'd skip lunch. And
Well,
or
I-
Is he
I
aware
think
that
he's
we're on?
saying if he works through lunch because something comes up.
Is he aware that we're on camera? He could probably follow the
He's
meeting right
watching.
now. Okay, good, good.
That's why. Well, he was like 15 minutes behind, but
Yeah.
now he's caught up. I think.
Okay.
What he's saying is he wouldn't know in the morning if it was like something came up and he had to work through lunch, basically.
So he wouldn't know at that time. He
He
wouldn't.
wouldn't know. I mean, could he just write it in the afternoon? That's fine.
Well, and if he does, he probably should send somebody a note right away, as soon as he finds out. I don't see any reason why that couldn't take place. Just send us a note. Send Mike a note. In his case, Drew or Jim, just send Mike a note saying, "Hey, I'm taking no lunch today. Something's come up. I need to get out of here early." And then Mike can shoot me a note. I don't have a problem with that. I think for the most part, those are going to be far and few between, those emergency days where they got to be gone. They didn't know about it in the morning. Most of the time, people are going to know when they come in.
I'm not saying when they got to leave early. I'm saying when they work through lunch. Do you?
Like if they're in the middle of a big project and they're like, screw it, boys, let's buckle down and keep on working and
Or something
finish this.
breaks and they don't eat because they're just fixing it.
And just let Mike know, send Mike a text.
Okay, that's what I'm just.
And if they're all together, Mike don't need to get a text from them if they're all together, but Mike should send me a note. Say we're taking no lunch, we've had a water break or we've had a gas break and we're all out here trying to get it done before it gets dark, you know,
Essentially,
whatever.
I think that's how they work. We're just asking for the communication of such.
Yeah. And I have expressed to Mike that my biggest concern really with last year was a lack of communication. And it goes both ways. It wasn't just him, wasn't just me, both of us not communicating well enough, but we'll do a better job of that. I still think whenever possible, we get verification if they're taking their lunch by having a sign-in sheet. So if they know they're not going to be here or be available, they're not having a lunch, if they sign that, then we've got verification. I don't expect any of our employees to go to the labor board and complain that they didn't get paid for their lunch for the last year and a half. And then they have an investigation and find out that, well, their clock ring said that didn't take a lunch, or they did or whatever. Okay. Let's move on. Next page, page 6. I'm gonna try to get this done in 35 minutes. So we're still on Article 5, and we're looking at, we're still on V2, it looks like. Subparagraph D after holidays. To be eligible to receive pay for an observed holiday, the way this is written, an employee must not have been absent without leave either on the workday before or after the holiday. I'd like to change that. Go ahead. Somebody.
I was gonna say, I disagree with that. I don't see the point of that. Why would you make the,
You know, if every employee gets paid for 10 holidays a year, why wouldn't they automatically get that holiday? Now, I can see where overtime would be.
Here's the way I read it. I'll explain my thought.
Okay.
My thought is somebody could take an unscheduled absence the day before. Let's take Christmas weekend. So Christmas weekend, for example, would be December 24th would be Saturday, December 25th would be Sunday. According to the holiday schedule, they'd get the holiday for December 24th on Friday, and they'd get the holiday on December 25th, which is Sunday. They'd get it on Monday.
Yep.
So they call in with an unscheduled absence on Thursday,
They don't get paid for the holiday.
and then they
It's
turn
already
around,
written that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
and then they turn around and do it again on Tuesday.
absent without, I glossed over the absent without leave
I've been
part.
bit by
Okay.
that one before.
Well, that's a problem of its own, but that makes
Bit by
sense.
that one
Okay.
before.
So,
My
so
boss
I'm
called
just
me
wanting to
and,
change
"I'm
it to,
so
I just want
sorry,
to change
didn't
that to
know,"
say
and I was like,
must not have been,
because I got sick.
must not have an unscheduled absence before or after. Unscheduled.
Okay.
Well,
I think
My
that's-
thought is if you're gonna take 4 days off before the holiday, so in this case, if you took Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off on vacation, you don't have a problem with that. But if you wait till Thursday and call in and say, I'm taking vacation day today, I don't have much choice but to do that. It doesn't give us any choice or an opportunity to replace that person because it's unscheduled. And if they turn around and follow it with taking Tuesday off, then they're gone. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. And it would be an advantage.
Yeah, the only thing I guess the only thing I run into, okay, so you have, Christmas or Christmas Eve and
and
Christmas.
New Year's Eve, right there.
Wait, New Year's Eve wouldn't apply in this case because you only
Well-
get one holiday for New Year's Day. You don't get one for New Year's Eve.
So just say it's a completely slow time of the year. Maybe they come in on Monday. They, don't have a whole lot to do at all. That's the day before Christmas Eve. That's the 23rd.
Okay.
This example. So then you go through Christmas Eve, Christmas. You're scheduled to work those next 2 days, the 26th and 27th, to round out the week, but they don't have anything going on. So, why don't I just go ahead and take vacation these 2 days? That
Okay.
wouldn't be on the schedule, but I don't know. I don't want them to lose eligibility for a holiday just because
I agree with
of
that.
something like that.
So the definition, and I have that written here somewhere, the definition of an unscheduled absence is any absence that doesn't give the employer an opportunity to deny it.
Okay.
So as an example, let's take vacation day. You want to leave today at 2:00 and take 2 hours of vacation. And so at 1:00, you request that 2 hours off. If we don't need him and we approve it, it's scheduled.
Okay.
But if we're needed, if he's needed, I say he
He or she.
or she, because we might have a female someday in the future working out there.
I
But
think we have a couple.
if he or she needs to be off and we've got a gas main that we're working on and we need all the people to be here and they insist that they go, then that would be an unscheduled vacation day. But if we approve it because we don't need them in this case because work is slow and we don't got no emergency to deal with, then it's an approved absence.
Okay. That's fine, just as long as.
So
like,
that's where the
schedule-
fine line comes in, I think, right there. And I'm
Well,
not
I think
gonna-
it's mainly people that call in sick before to have extra days.
And that's
Yeah.
that's always a possibility too, because sick leave, we don't have a choice. Somebody says they're taking sick leave, we don't have a choice. We have to give it to them. Okay.
Like vacation, I mean, that's strategy. I mean, you've got 2 days.
Oh,
in the
yeah,
middle of the week for
absolutely.
Christmas, I mean, take
Absolutely.
3 days and boom, you got the
Absolutely.
whole week off.
People have done that for years. If you got Saturday and Sunday, Christmas Eve, Saturday and Christmas Day, Sunday, and you're going to be off Friday and Monday, you got a 4-day weekend. So you could take 4 days prior to Christmas Eve and you're off 10 or 11 days and it only costs you 4 days of vacation. That's a perfect strategy. I love it.
You get a discount. So.
And there are actually people that look at a calendar when it comes time to, I'm not kidding
You want to
you.
see my spreadsheet for
Do you have that
this
sort
year?
of thing?
Oh, hell yes, I do.
So,
I
I
work
mean,
with people.
so the number of days people get, the number of days of vacation people earn, they can really stretch that from 15 to 30 days if they would combine it with holidays and weekends. Some people don't even think about that, but there are people that are experts on that.
Can I
So,
throw a wrench in this gear?
yeah,
To be eligible to receive pay for an observed holiday,
okay.
I think they all get the holiday pay unless they're in an LWOP status, leave without pay. But if they want to play the game of, oh shoot, I forgot that Friday was a holiday, I'm going to take Monday off or Thursday, whatever. And if they don't have the prior approval, all that, they're still going to get paid for that holiday. We're going to mark it down on their discipline or whatever. We're going to mark it somewhere else, but we're not going to short them out of that holiday pay. That's not right.
Well, the intent is to not have them be unscheduled for work.
I understand that.
And put the work burden on the people that are here.
I understand that. That's just how I feel.
Okay. Anybody else? Go ahead. Nobody? Okay, so do we want to leave it the way it is, absent without leave? Do we want to change it to unscheduled absence? Or do we not want to do anything?
I'm happy with the way it's worded. To reiterate, if you're not getting paid by sick time, vacation time, whatever. For example, right now I'm in short-term disability. I've gone through several holidays. I haven't gotten paid for it. I didn't get paid for Christmas, New Year's, whatever else was in there.
Okay.
I'm not getting paid because I'm in a no-pay status. But if I was on a really long vacation, or if I surprisingly took a vacation on each day of a holiday, the day of the holiday, I went into work. Hey, guess what, boss? I'm taking a day off. And if I took off Monday, knowing Tuesday is a holiday, and I also took off Wednesday, I still get paid for that holiday.
But they scheduled you off that day, right?
No.
You didn't give
Well,
them a
the
choice.
holiday, they
You did-
scheduled me off.
They didn't give you you didn't give them the choice to take the day off before the holiday. You told them you're going to take it and to hell with what
The
you think,
last
right?
second, yeah. Mhm. And I still get paid for the holiday.
That's wrong.
There's probably more people there to cover though.
That's the difference. I have lots of people where I work to cover for it. So that is a major difference. Well, apparently, once again, I'm alone. in My thing.
Okay, all
So.
right.
I don't disagree. I've been bit by this one before. I didn't even know it was a thing, and I called in sick before a holiday, and I was genuinely sick, but my boss said, okay, fine. And then Tuesday came around after Christmas weekend or something, and he called me in and goes, I'm really sorry. And I lost 3 days of pay.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know they really did that.
Mhm.
Okay.
Midland Care.
When I worked at the
And they
hospital,
really missed me for that whole day that I was actually throwing up or whatever.
That
was
just
wrong.
means that just means the next holiday you go in and throw up all over the place and have them tell you to go home.
I
That's
refuse to
Oh my.
be at work sick. I just won't do it. And then,
Okay,
yeah.
let's go to the next one. V3 vacation
they would have me come in sick.
in the
and
first
go
paragraph.
to the
Okay,
health unit
this one's going to be important. Okay,
I don't
this is,
have any
I think this is going to benefit the employees if we don't make some changes on here. And if we don't make changes on here, the employees owe us money. And I'll explain that here in a minute.
Okay.
All right, first paragraph, go towards the middle of it where it says an employee who works less than 12 days in any month, okay? And then the very line underneath it provided the limit of 12 days. I want to change 12 days to 96 hours, and you'll understand why that here in a minute, okay? I want to change it to 96 hours. If you take 96 and divide it by 12 days, okay?
Divide by 8, you get 12.
That equals 8 hours a day, okay? I mean, it still comes up to 12 days, but I'm changing it to hours. You'll see why here in a minute, okay? Okay, the very last line of that paragraph says no employee shall be permitted to use vacation time for any period spent on unauthorized leave or participating in any unlawful work stoppage. Is that okay? I changed that from unauthorized to unscheduled, but I think unauthorized is a better word, not unscheduled. In other words, an unauthorized leave would be AWOL, would be absent without leave. So I'm going to take that off my books. Okay, keep in mind the 96 hours. Okay, paragraph A. The way it reads, full-time employees will receive vacation monthly at a rate determined by years of service. An employee with less than 10 years of service will accrue 8 hours a month. After 10 years of service, 10 hours a month, and after 15 years of service, reach a maximum of 14 hours a month. Temporary, seasonal, and part-time employees shall not earn any vacation credits. That has to change, and here's why. It should change. Let's go back. An employee with less than 10 years of service will accrue 4 hours per pay period.
Is that continual service?
Yes. Yes. So you can't work 5 years, quit, come back in 3 months or 4 months and have that time bridged, or come back a year later and have it time bridged. You start over again with 0. The intent is to hopefully keep people working here. After 10 years of service, you guys have 10 hours a month. After 10 years of service, 10 hours a month, I think that should be 5 hours per pay period. After 15 years of service, a maximum of what you guys have is 14 hours a month, and I have 6.5 hours per pay period. Now, if you take your calculator and you take 8 hours a month, 8 hours a month as you have it currently, you take 12 months times 8 hours, and that gives them 96 hours of vacation a year, the way it's written. Everybody agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
However, we aren't paid once a month. We're paid every 2 weeks. If you take every 2 weeks, you have 26 pay periods in a year. So now you take 26 pay periods, and if you pay them by the pay period, which is 4 hours a pay period, 26 times 4 equals 104 hours. So the way this is written, they're getting underpaid 8 hours a year, the way this is written. And all I'm doing is changing it from days to hours. Pay period, 4 hours of pay period. When you stop and think about that, most people think I get paid twice a month. That's 8 hours a month, which is what I think the intent was when they put 8 hours in here. Okay. Now, I didn't bring my worksheet with me, but if you look at the next one, if we change it to 5 hours of pay period, okay, then 26 times 5 hours of pay period is 130 hours. I got scratch paper if anybody wants it. So the first one was if we did 4 hours of pay period, okay, that equals 104 hours a year. And if you do 5 hours of pay period, that's 130 hours. And the next one, 14 maximum. If you change that after 15 years to 6.5 per pay period, okay? Then you got 26 times 6.5. That equals 169 hours. Let's break that down. 104 hours divided by 8 is 13 days a year. 130 hours after they've been here 10 years. Divide that by 8. And I did that wrong. No, I didn't. 16. That equals 16 days and a quarter. 16 and 1/4 days. And if you take 169 after they've been here for 14 years,
No,
15 after 15 years, if you give them 6.5, that's 169 hours. And so you divide that by 8. That gives them 21, a little over 21 hours or 21 days. So when they first start, they get 13 days a year. After they've been here 10 years, it bumps to 16 days a year. And after they've been here 15 years, it bumps to 21. And if you think about that, they can take that 16 days and they could easily turn it into 25 or 30 by combining them with holidays and weekends, as far as having consecutive time off goes. Okay. So I think that needs to be changed. It's a benefit to the employee. If you don't change it, everybody that's been getting 8 hours a month. I made a comment that they would owe us money, but they wouldn't owe us money,
Yeah,
would they?
they're getting it paid 4 hours per payday, so they're actually getting 104, but we're only charging with 96. So then they would owe
Oh,
back the
they-
8 is what you tried to say.
Yes, that's what they owe. They don't owe us any money. They would owe us the 8 hours back. So if Mike's been here 8 years at least, maybe 9, 10, anybody know?
It's close to 10.
I think he's the longest
Yeah.
employee we've got here, right? So let's just say he's been here 10 years. So if he's been getting 8 hours a month,
No, wait,
if he's been getting
4 hours a payday.
12 days a year, if he's been getting 12 days a year, then technically he owes us 8 hours times 10 years. Or an extra day times 10 years.
So we just need to change this instead
We need
of months. We should be doing pay periods.
Don't you think? I mean, they
Yeah.
get more hours if you do it by pay period than if you set it up by the month.
So it should be correct.
It just makes sense to accrue it in a pay
That's
period.
how we pay them is 2 weeks at a time.
Yeah.
That's how they should
I mean-
accrue their.
I mean, we don't short pay them 2 weeks paid throughout the course of a year. We still give them 26 paychecks a year. So this is an improvement for the employee. There's just no doubt in my mind about that.
Okay, no argument.
Okay, so try to hustle through this. Paragraph B. Vacation leave earned in 1 year may be carried over no more than 12 months. I would like to change that to say 80 hours of vacation leave earned in 1 year may be carried over to the next year. And I say that because if you go down to paragraph E, it says upon termination, an employee shall be compensated for all vacation leave at the rate of 1 day per month for each month worked in the year of termination, less vacation used. And that's wrong too, because if they carried over 2 weeks of vacation, they should get paid for those 2 weeks of vacation if they get fired.
I love that in
Uh,
the year of termination. So if
Yes.
they quit in January, they get nothing. If
They
they
get
quit in
nothing,
December, they
and-
get all that.
But yet they've carried over 80 hours, right?
It makes zero
It
sense.
makes 0 sense to take their vacation away from them. So it needs to be changed so that they get it. Now the question is, how much do we allow to get carried over so that we don't go broke in February paying 360 hours of vacation or something? Because they wouldn't have that. Does that make sense? We need to change that. Upon termination, that needs to be changed. plus it needs to be changed, instead of per month, it needs to be changed to per pay period, because again, we're working on pay periods, not by the month. And it needs to say plus any hours carried over from previous year.
or accrued. However much vacation time they have in the hole, they should get paid for. I don't know how to word that, but that's my thought.
I mean, instead of being compensated 1 day per month, I
No,
mean,
per pay period, or 4 hours. It should be per hour. It should be. And the reason I say at the rate, because there's going to be people that's got 10 years, somebody's got 5, somebody's got 15, so their pay rate is different.
Yeah.
So if they're earning 5 hours of vacation per pay period, and they decide to quit after 5 pay periods, they got 25 hours coming of vacation time in addition to what was carried over. But right now, as it says, they don't get the carryover. So I think it should be carried over.
I agree they should be able to carry over 80 hours, and when they get fired, they should get, or quit, whatever, they should get paid for the vacation time they have in the hole.
Plus what they earned up to that point.
Mhm.
Because I think the reason this was put on here was because somebody retired with $7,000 million worth of vacation time. 'Cause they never
Sick
took
time.
it.
but
Well,
it's,
Who was it that
But if
retired?
you cap the carryover
But it's
for a
capped,
year, then
yeah.
that
it's
can't happen.
capped. So
I think that's why it was here in the first place.
the cap makes sense for that because
Yeah.
so that's done,
Yeah.
fixed. Because wording makes zero sense for the
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did happen. I know
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
It was somebody that had a whole mess of sick time and
vacation time.
Well,
Yeah.
sick doesn't
Yeah.
carry.
used to did.
Yeah, it doesn't anymore.
Oh, you can accrue it. You just can't. You don't get it.
What's
don't
that?
get paid out.
Sick leave.
Sick isn't paid out.
You can accrue up to 720.
I
You
want
just
to
don't
change
get
that
it.
too when we get to that. I want to make that number higher. But we'll get to that in a second.
The
here.
wording on the sick leave doesn't make any sense either.
Took ours away. We used to
Yeah,
get
they did.
1440. I had like 1,200 some hours
So did
building it
Les.
up over time. And
You got robbed too, huh?
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
Again on vacation, V3 subparagraph C, the second line says employees will be permitted to use vacation leave in units of not less than 1/2 day, subject to supervisor's approval. And so I want to stop at that, and I'd like to change it from 1/2 day to 1/2 hour. So if somebody doesn't want to burn doesn't want to burn 4 hours of vacation, and they take a no lunch that day, and they're due off at that makes them due off at 3 o'clock at the earliest, because they come in at 7. The no lunch gets them off at 3. And if they have an appointment they need to go to, they can take a 1/2 hour off and leave at 2:30 and make the appointment on time.
Yeah.
I agree with that because on the sick leave it says,
Same thing. I want to
Per-
change that too.
well, it says per hour. I thought, well, that's why would you let them
Yeah.
call in sick at an hour and only take a half day when you got
Yeah.
vacation?
Now, where is that? Is that on the back page? Another page?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I changed that to a 1/2 hour also
Okay.
when we get to that.
Because it
Okay.
made no sense.
So
for
are you
one.
guys good with
How they
changing
did the
that
same
to
thing.
are you good with changing that
Yeah.
from 1/2 day to 1/2 an hour? And that gives the employee the option too.
Don't do it, Alana.
Well, I won't. I'm just going to say right quick.
13 minutes. I'm
Your-
out of here.
Your
We
best
agreed, let's go.
your best insurance that you can possibly have is your sick leave, because you never have to pay for it. There's no premium to pay for it. And if you've got a long-term absence, you got a paycheck coming in. And it don't cost you anything to have that. Okay, we already went through that one.
Surely we're not still.
All employees must take time off from work when using vacation hours earned, except as stated in Article 5, Section 3, Paragraph E, which is the termination and tells how that's worked. So in other words, I want to eliminate somebody accruing, say, 160 hours of vacation and not taking time off, but turns it in and gets paid for it. I mean, if we're trying to keep into $26,000 a year, whatever they get paid when you figure that up, that keeps them in that area and doesn't push them up to 20.
If they accrue 120 hours and they can only carry
Excuse
over
me.
80, don't we pay them for the extra 40?
No, they should take the 40 during the year,
Can they get paid for that 40 at the end?
not unless they take it. Take the time off is what I'm trying to say. Employees should take time off from work. Regardless, it's healthy for them. It's healthy for the.
It's healthy for most people, but some people might not be. I don't see a problem with, like I said, if you got 121 day or 120 hours on December 31st, you can only carry over 80, pay them for the other 40. Don't just throw it away. Don't say, I should have taken it off.
It encourages them to use it throughout the year.
Yeah, I would love that.
I got
Again,
I got stuck taking vacation at like the 12th of December last year because I didn't use it because I thought I'd be
Mhm.
using it earlier in the year and I didn't have the opportunity to do that. So
And so then in December, they didn't give you the
Not working
opportunity to use it
yourself,
either. Huh?
Yeah.
What
Take
was-
your time off.
nothing better to do.
Take a damn mental health day off.
on the other side, my boss tells me to stay at work because I'll get paid for that at the end of the year. And I said, but I don't like you that much. I want to leave.
They want time off.
Exactly. So you're not taking the time off properly.
Okay.
I do agree with that. They should take these off.
All right, let's move on. Tim's got 10 minutes.
We all got, it's 10 minutes and I can't sit in this chair after that.
I know.
I gotta
I
go.
think my butt's
Okay,
numb.
sick leave, section 4, paragraph A. Says full-time employees shall earn 4 hours of sick leave. I want to change that to per pay period. 4 hours, wait a minute.
Where are you at?
Okay,
Because that didn't make any sense.
Just a second.
Number A.
Full-time employees shall earn 8 hours of sick leave for each full month of service. Okay, there
Which makes
again,
no
that
sense.
needs to be changed to 4 hours of pay period.
That'll help them again.
That'll help them again. Part-time employees shall not be entitled to sick leave. I wrote myself a note like, why not? Because you're paying them, if they're working a regular schedule, you're paying them for a holiday absence. So if you're paying them for a holiday absence, they're in a sense treated like a full-time employee, except for the sick leave. Do you want to give part-time employees that work a regular 20-hour week or more sick leave or not?
I think because of the nature of some of our people, when they don't have work, they shouldn't be working. Isn't that how we do it
Yeah,
with the
that's
part-time
what I
employees? Because that's, I mean,
Well, you're
if they don't have 15 hours of work, then they shouldn't be working that 15 hours. That's how we've always done it before.
Well, you're-
Because of the type of,
your compliance
Part-time
officer.
employees.
Your compliance officer should not be seasonal. That should be a year-round job.
yeah, but then we've got the lake one, the city one, and the dog catcher. The dog catcher's obviously like on call.
Yeah, I don't think dog catcher even
The
comes
lake
close to
public
that.
officer should be year round.
What's that? Who
The
should be?
Winter Lake public officer. So
Who'd you say?
shouldn't
The
they
public
have,
officer at the lake.
Well, both public officers should be year-round.
And pretty much the caretaker as well, in
shouldn't
my
they
opinion.
have enough work though?
You talking about
No.
Robin right now? Are you talking about Robin?
Talking about sick leave.
Caretaker Robin?
Yes.
Mm.
Okay. Yeah, I think that should year-round too. Now's the perfect time to be trimming trees out there at the lake. That was the reason she got the chainsaw. Was so she can see what needs to be trimmed out of
So
there.
for part-time employees, what are you saying they should have? Sick?
I'm saying that I'm just suggesting that we pay them if they work if they get 20 hours a week on a regular basis, they should be earning sick leave.
If they call in sick, they get sick leave.
So
Basically.
2 hours per pay period, or is
it
it?
should be half of what the full-time people get. So full-time people are getting 8, so they get 2. It's an incentive to keep the part-timers here with us. That's all I'm looking at right there.
Does it have to be on a day they're scheduled to work, like some of the ones that are
Yeah.
on demand?
Yeah, well, we won't have any on demands that would qualify because Aspen doesn't get 20 hours a weekend.
Okay.
And
That makes
she
sense.
works, she's basically an on-call. Whenever something happens, she goes and deals with it.
I've never heard of a part-timer getting sick time.
Well, I haven't either. However, it does go down here when you get into holiday and it talks about paying them holiday pay on a day that they would, if a holiday falls on one of their regularly scheduled days, they get holiday pay.
but none of them have regular scheduled days.
Well, so what are you saying? They're not scheduled Monday through Friday. They're scheduled Saturday through Friday, right?
I thought they were scheduled up to X number of hours per week.
Okay.
If they do those hours on Monday and Tuesday or on Monday,
Well, it depends on what it is. If it's a public officer who needs to go inspect the dock, is somebody going to call in on Friday and expect us to tell them that we don't come out there until Monday and Tuesday because that's when they're regularly scheduled? Or are we going to try to
that's
get
my
them out
point, is
there?
they don't have a regular schedule. They work up to X number of hours per week.
All right. Well, I'm just throwing this out there for discussion. I understand what you're trying to say. The regular work week is midnight Friday to 12:01 Saturday to midnight on Friday. That's the regular schedule. The other than the dog catcher, the public officers are expected to work
Do they have
up to 20 hours a week. So
But they don't have a schedule. Like, I mean,
they don't have a
it's the
schedule like
idea
8
is
to
a
4:30.
part-time employee has an easier time making up hours that they're missing. If they're sick one day, they can come in the next day and work double and make it up easier. I mean,
Or if it's a beautiful day to mow and they want to work all 10 hours to mow,
exactly.
mow and come tomorrow and trim. They got their 20 hours in a couple days.
Okay, well, we don't have to do it. It was just something
So
I
I
thought
just
of.
don't.
I think the sentiments, I think it's the right sentiment to have. I don't have a problem
Yeah.
with, saying 2 hours per pay period or prorated that, according to the 40, if you work 10 hours a week, then you're entitled to 1/4 of what somebody that works 40 hours works. Just the weird thing is exactly like what Tim's saying, hey, I'm going to blow through
Yeah.
Monday, Tuesday, and
We can scratch that off. So if we scratch this off, in my opinion, we need to scratch off the holiday pay too.
I mean, I would just wait till I got 8 hours though. If I was working part-time, and I just, okay, all right, I'm gonna cash it in and give myself a bonus day.
I was going to say, the other thing is, what if they put in their 20 hours and then they wanted to take a sick day, so they got 28 hours pay in 1 week?
Yeah,
I mean, that opens a weird door.
yeah.
I don't think you can do it that way because they'd be over
I
their
know.
max hours. So
Yeah. They'd be over their max hours. They could, if they normally work 2 hours, if they normally work 4 hours a day throughout the week, on average 4 hours a day throughout the week, and they took sick leave one day, the most they could take is 4 hours. They couldn't take 8 unless it was a long-term absence. But we're running short on time if we're going to hold this meeting to 2 hours, which means we won't get everything done. So we want me to scratch that, not give it to them,
I say
or do you?
not unless we think it through more, but I think at this point I'm fine with
Okay,
that.
fine without adding it in there?
Without, yeah.
Okay, all right, I'll exit off. It might be something we'll consider next year. We'll see how things go.
What do you feel?
All right.
I'll give it to them because otherwise, to me, it says screw the part-time.
I don't think
Yeah,
so.
but I
It's a
don't-
part-time
I'm not
job.
taking
I work
away,
part-time at the
but-
library.
Okay,
I'm not getting
just don't know how
paid
you
for
manage
calling
we
sick.
can discuss it next year. We can see how it goes. We haven't really had any full-time employees
Bring it up
for any
anytime.
length of
Yeah,
time.
we can bring it up next meeting. It doesn't say that we have to cover this all 100% tonight. If they don't cover it, it can't be
Got a
covered.
better way to attack it next meeting? That's fine. Bring it up again.
All right, let's look at this. Paragraph D, for sick leave in excess of 3 days. That means an employee can take 3 days off with sick leave and not have to have a doctor's statement. Everywhere I've worked is beginning on the 3rd day, you have to have one.
Yeah.
So I would like to change that to say for sick leave in excess of 2 days, which means on the 3rd day, they would need to have documentation.
I have the hardest time with that because the last thing I want to do is drag my puking sick butt into a doctor and get a note. And sometimes they don't want you, especially with COVID. They say stay the hell out. So it's a hard window for me to go, yeah.
Send me one of your doctor's slips on the email that
Yeah.
says I need the time off so I can turn it in.
Can you do that? I don't think you
I
can.
don't know if they can do that.
Although we have Teledoc now, maybe they do that.
I was gonna say that's an option, but I mean,
I have Teledoc. I don't know what they have.
And,
mean,
and
yeah, I
this
think
next thing I'm looking at, I want an answer on that before I type it up or have it typed up.
I don't like the having to pay to access healthcare if you happen to be in the third day. And I know I don't think our people are on high deductible plans that, you know, I think we're paying, you know, that I don't know what the copays are like or anything like that. But, you know, it's like, hey, I get dinged for going to the doctor just because I'm sick. It might be something that, you know, hey, I'm sick as a dog, but
And it might be something
I'm
that
not
might,
doctor sick. They're not going to help me. They're not going to do anything except write a
Exactly.
note for
But
me.
it
Because
might
a
be,
lot
Let
of
it
them
play
won't.
its course.
but it might be something that turns into a long-term illness if they don't get treated.
Yeah,
But that's
I mean,
up
you-
to
you never
them to go
know.
get treatment.
I think it's
If it's
still
actually kind of, but at 3
personal
days, I mean,
decision
that's
to
one of my kids' fevers sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty standard, 3 days.
How this is attacked where I work is if you're gone 3 days sick, you must bring a doctor's note to say that you're eligible to come back. Because they don't want you coming back and still being bad. But then the supervisor starts saying, well, just bring in your medicine and show me. And you bring in a damn aspirin bottle and get away with it.
Also, I know a lot of doctors are not gonna put you in that fast, period. Even if you are on your deathbed. I'm not playing. I've
We changed
called doctors
doctors.
and they're like, no.
We changed doctors and we can't even get in for the initial consultation for like 2 months.
I just got yelled at because I had a fever and I had to go to an appointment and they were like, you're not supposed to be in here at all. It's like, crap, sorry.
And so you want to leave it the way it's written?
I don't know.
Access to 3 days, talk about it later.
I don't want to get more stringent on it if we don't have to. I mean,
Okay, the only other thing on there, extended sick leave absences, and this is up in the air, 5 days or more may require a second opinion. And that's because of something else that's down here. So let's try to get to this real quick. And if the second opinion is required by a physician or a dentist, the city will pay for it. And if you go to section F, okay, the employee shall not be paid for any unused sick leave upon termination of his or her employment with the city. I want to add an exception to that. And before I tell you the exception, I got to jump back to paragraph B, where it says no employee may accrue more than 720 hours of sick leave. I'd like to change that to 2,080 hours, which is the equivalent of 1 year of sick leave. Now, as we get older, us old folks in here could probably attest to the fact that we get sicker a little bit earlier than other people do, and it might be longer term. And if I'm going to be out 6 months, I want to get paid for it. I don't want to be leave without pay for any of that time. So that's a benefit that don't cost the employee anything. Now, at the end of that paragraph F, I said I wanted to add to that, unused sick leave shall be credited towards the employee's net credit of service time. So if a minimum of 6 months, and from what I found out today, if we were to prove something like that, it could not be paid by capers. So in other words, if you worked 20 hours and you had 2,080 hours, you could turn it in and
20
get credit
years.
for 21 years of
20
service, because 2,080 is the equivalent of a year. Okay. So you get credit for 21 years of service. However, capers does not allow that. So if we were to do that, then that would be a separate check that the city would pay the employee. Huge advantage for the city, and an advantage for the employee that doesn't have a need in the later years of service to be off work long term.
Could
Okay.
you,
And it encourages them to save their sick.
It encourages them to save their sick leave, and if they do need it, where they're going to be out of work for any length of time, they're going to get a paycheck for the entire time they're out sick. They could be out sick for 7 or 8 months and they get a paycheck. But if they don't, if they're only allowed to hold on to 720 hours, when that 720 is up, they don't get a paycheck anymore.
Unless they sign up for short-term disability insurance.
Well, but we don't pay that. And short-term disability insurance is
Do we
not,
offer it?
nope.
No.
And it's not even what and the insurance that they currently have doesn't cover disability. I looked into that today too.
would you email that to us? Because that's a lot to digest all at once.
Yes, yeah,
But
yeah,
just that one note, I think. I mean, you could send whatever you want, but
yeah. I'll send
I
you-
need it written down, I think, just so I can
and,
go
and,
through it.
and that's okay. And I certainly don't have a problem with that, because we all need to understand if there's something you're saying or anybody else is saying, I don't understand. You guys know me. I'm going to ask you,
Yeah.
explain that. And I expect y'all to do the same with me.
It's a lot of
because-
numbers at once.
Yeah. And I talked about 3 different things. I talked about subparagraph B. I talked about F. and added something in D. So there's 3 different things we were throwing out there all at once.
Yeah.
But my point is raise the number of sick leave hours that they can accumulate.
Got that.
Okay. And I think everybody should agree to that. You don't have to agree to it, but you see the advantage to the employee.
Yeah.
And we've already got it in the books that they can't get paid for their sick leave like somebody did in the past. And that's why that's down there, that you don't get paid for sick leave. But the incentive, there's 2 incentives here for the employee. One, you can get a minimum, if you had a minimum 6 months worth of sick leave saved up, which would be half of 2080 or 1040, you're going to get an extra paycheck in retirement from the city for whatever that amount is. Okay. And the longer they're here, the higher that amount's going to be because their hourly wage is going to go up. But you see what I'm saying on that? I'll put it in writing and I'll get it out there.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say it's 9 o'clock, a few minutes after. I have just hardly anything left.
No.
Okay.
Carrie has my page.
2080, you'd have to work 20 hours or 20 years
years.
straight without
Without
taking
taking any.
a sick leave day. But I mean,
And
why cap it?
but we don't have anybody that's going to fall in that category.
I'll talk to them about it.
We don't have anybody
We
that
need
fall in
their
that
standard.
category.
It's gonna be a generation.
And you're exactly right. Why cap it? What if somebody comes to work at age 20? The earliest they're going to retire. How many years you got to work with capers? Did you have capers at the state when you worked for the FBI?
I haven't had it in so long I couldn't tell you anything about it.
You have to have a minimum of 5 to be vested, but you can retire at 55 and 20 years if you want,
So
or
combo.
60. But each one, if you retire between 55 and 60, you take a loss. If you retire between 60 and 62, you take a loss. If you retire between 62 and 65, you're okay.
Okay, for those of you that got this handbook with you, and I hope you wrote notes beside it or highlighted. Mine's highlighted. Annie's got highlights. Tim does.
I've been writing.
But I'm going to. I'll get this typed up. I'll get it out to everybody, and you can compare that with yours. Scribble on the new one. Bring it to the meeting Monday night. And if we have time, we're not going to spend 2 hours looking over it Monday night. I
Oh,
promise
thank
you.
God.
We won't do that.
Highlight whatever you change because that makes life so much
I don't know if
easier.
my computer allows me
Or
to
if
highlight.
Justin's got it,
It
it
will.
will.
My
It
computer
will.
will allow me to
Ask
highlight.
Marcia.
Okay. All right.
I did have a question on this last one.
Which
Employees properly claims sick leave. Who improperly claims sick leave shall be subject to disciplinary action.
Where
including loss
you
of
at?
pay.
Where you at? Where you at?
G.
Oh, an employee.
How do you prove that they improperly claim sick leave?
Because they said they're sick. but
Somebody
they're
calls
obvious.
in sick, and we happen to go to the Royals ball game, and they're sitting right
That's so
beside us.
by just gross chance.
Well, you know what? You know what? You laugh
That's
about
a
that.
really difficult
Yeah,
thing
guess
to
what?
say. If you have a chronic person who's calling you
Yes.
constantly, how do you fire them when they're being a terrible employee?
Guess what? Guess
You
what?
had that exact thing.
Let me tell you what happened last year on opening day at the Royals game.
You were
we-
sitting next to
No, it wasn't opening day. We went to
Day at
school
K. Day at the
school at the K with the kids. All right, we went to that. And who did we park behind? We parked directly behind Mike Bone, Tuff Stevenson, and who was the third person?
We're on camera still, I think, unless you shut it
That's
off.
okay.
Anyway, but
That's
they,
okay.
they had the
But
day
but
off.
they had the day off.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it was happenstance that we parked behind them. So yeah, what are the odds?
No, I'm saying like
So that's how somebody gets caught
that's
abusing something.
a hard thing to prove to me. Like
Well,
there's
that's
no,
not hard to prove if you're in that situation.
What are you going to their house to look for 'em?
No.
I'm not saying
I'm
somebody
not-
who's calling in sick to go to a baseball game. I'm saying somebody who's abusing
Yeah, I mean,
sick leave.
you drive
How
by, you see
do
them
you
mowing the
prove it?
lawn. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know.
I had a neighbor like that that was
Yeah.
on disability and he couldn't do anything, and then you drive by and you meet him on your yard or painting his house or painting the neighbor's house.
I'll be honest. I've got illnesses that
Yep,
are not
yep.
visible.
Sweet guy. never did
Annie, I'm
anything
not
to
going to go
me.
looking for
Loved
people.
him to death. but
I'm just
You
saying
know,
it.
that's not going to happen. But
The way it's written, it's impossible to hold it unless you really did catch them red-handed like that. To hold it to firing them.
yeah,
And
Well,
so, if you really
yeah.
want to fire someone for poor behavior, it
there's
needs a
other
better-
ways to do that.
There's a
Other ways to do
I
it.
you,
guess,
you can
yeah.
say they're subject to disciplinary action, but I mean, yeah, I wouldn't go straight to termination by any
No,
means.
true.
I'd
I'm
be
not
like,
sure, I'm not
And I
sure
don't
what that
think
read
it's-
now.
be like, dude, I saw you out mowing the lawn. Well, you called in sick. It's like, can you not do that? I mean, that's the first step.
We had a guy that called up a manager. He was real good friends with the manager, and he
I'll
called him
get
up.
this.
Let me get my coat. He called up a
You guys know how
manager.
to turn that thing off or?
Here, it's up here.
Okay.
Hey, I can't see.
Okay.
I can't see. I got
Okay.
paperwork.